Chapter 58. Just as Yun Songhai and the others who were waiting in the middle of Yuwu mountain range were burning with anxiety and were planning to enter the mountain range to look for Yun Sheng and Luo Shueiyue, two long-awaited figures walked out under the moonlight. Seeing that the two of them were safe and sound and only looked a little tired, Mu Shueiyue heaved a sigh of relief. It's good that you're back. It doesn't matter if you didn't find the soul stone. Actually, not many magicians get their first soul stone by themselves. Mu Shueiyue was a little resentful towards Qi Wu. What training, little miss? Little miss was covered in blood and she had lost a lot of weight. These 3 days were probably the toughest days of her life. Yun Songhai also saw his daughter, but unlike Mu Shueiyue, he noticed something in his daughter's eyes. Compared to 3 days ago when they entered Yuwu mountain range, his daughter seemed to have grown a little. As for Qi Wu, he was dumbfounded. The two of you? His eyes weren't playing tricks on him, right? The little miss was actually holding hands with Yunxing as they walked out. Moreover, when Mu Shueiyue handed the water and rations to the little miss, she actually gave them to Yunxing first. Heavens, is this still the unruly and willful little miss that I know? Who said that we didn't find the soul stone? Look at our magic scepter. Dong Huanglinger proudly showed her magic scepter. On top of the magic scepter, there was an additional purple soul stone. When they saw the purple soul stone, Qi Wu and Mu Shueiyue were shocked. That was a lightning-type soul stone. Furthermore, it was a soul stone that was at least 80 to 90 years old. Little miss, how can you fuse with such an old soul stone? It's too dangerous. Mu Shueiyue was so shocked that she almost stopped breathing. Even if she wanted to fuse with such an old soul stone, she would need the help of a magician of a higher rank. Thinking of how little miss managed to fuse with such an old soul stone, Mu Shueiyue was so scared that her hands and feet turned cold. So what? Dong Huanglinger was unconvinced. She pointed at Yun Sheng and said, Yun Sheng is more powerful than me. She fused with a fire-type soul stone. That soul stone is at least 100 years old and she is still fine. What? 100 years old soul stone? What kind of little monsters were they? Ordinary magicians would fuse with 10 or 20-year-old soul stones for their first magic soul stone. After becoming an archmagus, they would start fusing with 50 to 100-year-old soul stones. They actually jumped over it on the first try. Mu Shueiyue suddenly felt that she was half a head shorter. It had to be known that her first soul stone was 20 years old. Even her second soul stone was only 85 years old. All the warriors present, including Mu Shueiyue and even Yun Songhai, who had always been incomparably calm, could not help but change their expressions. Yun Songhai grabbed Yun Sheng and looked at her daughter from head to toe. Father, I'm fine. Actually, the magic fusion isn't as dangerous as you make it out to be. Linger and I are fine, aren't we? Yun Sheng took out her magic scepter for him to inspect upon seeing the worry on her father's face. Fire magic scepter. Magic compatibility, 80%. Lightning magic scepter, magic compatibility, 70%. After Yun Songhai inspected the two magic scepters, he discovered that the fusion rate between the two magic scepters and the soul stones was very good. Generally speaking, as long as the fusion rate between the magic scepter and the soul stone exceeded 50%, it would be considered good. The higher the fusion rate between the magic scepter and the soul stone, the smoother it would be when fusing with the second magic soul stone. Furthermore, what was even more gratifying was that after the two children obtained such old soul stones, their ability to use magic had increased. Without any external interference, the two of them were able to fuse with the soul stones so perfectly just by relying on their own magic power. No matter if it was because the two of them were lucky or because the two of them were really talented, it was already very commendable. Even so, Yun Sheng and Dong Huanglinger were still taught a lesson by their respective elders. After the lesson, Yun Sheng and Dong Huanglinger glanced at each other. That gaze in the eyes of the elders was extremely strange. Mu Shueiyue was a woman, and her thoughts were more meticulous. She suddenly thought of a question. Where did the two of you get your soul stones from? A 130-year soul stone and a 90-year soul stone, didn't that mean? We were just about to talk about this. We encountered a rank 5 mutated demonic beast, and it seemed to be a wanted demonic beast. When we found it, it was already dying. There were a few hunters beside it, and it looked like both sides were injured. That demonic beast was poisoned, and the two of us waited beside it for 2 days and 2 nights before it finally died. We took the opportunity to dig out the soul stone from its body. The two girls recounted vividly. The two of them had already practiced this speech 8 to 10 times on the way back, and it was very vivid. Wanted demonic beast. Mu Shueiyue only felt her vision turn white, and in the next second she fainted from the shock. In the end, the Fire Lion Bull was still carried out by Qi Wu and a few other warriors. The Fire Lion Bull's enormous body and sturdy bones made Qi Wu and the others gasp in shock. This rank 5 wanted demonic beast was very strong, but its body was poisoned, and it even suffered a fatal blow at its chest. There were indeed a few hunters around it who had already died. In addition to what Yun Sheng and Mu Shuiwei said, it was reasonable. The lords believed the two men's words. When Qi Wu and the others carried the demonic beast's bones out, they found out that this demonic beast was indeed a wanted demonic beast, and a C-class one at that. The few of them handed the demonic beast's bones to the local guards and received a considerable reward. Yun Songhai and Qi Wu each received half of the reward. This Mount Yu Wu trial could be said to be a blessing in disguise. Not only did the two of them become great magicians, Yun Sheng and Dong Huanglinger also became good friends. The moment of separation still came. After Dong Huanglinger obtained her first demonic beast soul stone, she was about to return to the eastern capital. Yun Sheng, you are my first friend. Dong Huanglinger looked at Yun Sheng reluctantly. Linger, you are also my first friend. Although the two of them didn't get along well in the beginning, after experiencing life and death and knowing each other's secrets, they were already honest with each other. In the carriage, Mu Shuiwei was already urging Dong Huanglinger, who said that only men's friendship was forged with fists. Women's friendship could also be forged with fists. Will we have a chance to meet again? Dong Huanglinger wiped the corner of her eyes. She really couldn't bear to part with Yun Sheng. If fate allows, we will meet again. Yun Sheng waved her hand as she watched Dong Huanglinger get on the carriage. The carriage moved forward, and when they turned into a fork, Dong Huanglinger suddenly popped her head out. Yun Sheng, I will be going to the Magic Academy in the Eastern Capital. If there is a chance, let's meet again in the Eastern Capital. Chapter 59. Seeing that Yun Sheng was watching Dong Huanglinger and the others leave, Yun Songhai's gaze turned slightly heavy. Sheng, you are already 6 years old. In another 2 years, you will be entering the Magic Academy. Dong Huanglinger's words reminded Yun Songhai that Yun Sheng couldn't stay by his side all the time. She had to learn magic systematically. When Yun Songhai initially planned to bring Yun Sheng out of Banana Leaf Village, he only wanted to send Yun Sheng back to the Yun family so that she could learn medicine. But now Yun Sheng already possessed the rarely seen 5-colored magic soul. She also obtained her first type of fire elemental magic. With such talent, it would be a waste for her to only learn medicine. Father, what is a magic academy? If I must enter a magic academy, why don't I go to the East Capital Magic Academy that Linger mentioned? Through Dong Huanglinger, Yun Sheng opened up a whole new world. That world was something that Yun Sheng had never come into contact with when she was in Banana Leaf Village. Through Yun Songhai's explanation, Yun Sheng knew what a magic academy was. In the boundless world, children who could sense the elements of magic could choose to enter the elementary magic academy in the country once they reached the age of 6. Of course, the children could also directly join the local temple and enter the magic training system that was directly under the temple. In the magic academy, the magic apprentices would be systematically taught all kinds of magic knowledge. According to their ranks, the magic academies in the continent were divided into elementary magic academies, intermediate magic academies, and advanced magic academies. The elementary magic academies only accepted magic apprentices. The intermediate magic academies only accepted magic apprentices and above. As for the advanced magic academies, they were also known as the continent's magic elite camp. Only the magicians recommended by the various magic academies and temples could enter. There is a magic academy in Jade Capital. As for the magic academy in the East Capital, Sheng, you are very sensible. Father thinks that there are some things that I should tell you earlier. Dong Huanglinger's identity isn't simple. You two can be friends now, but in the future, if you were to join the Magic Academy and become a member of Zhou State's Magic Academy, your relationship with her would most likely become hostile. With regards to Dong Huanglinger's identity, Yun Songhai somewhat knew about it. He was from the Eastern Capital and had several experts protecting him. Dong Huang was young but had a noble aura. He must be from the Imperial Palace. I already know. Ling said that her brother is the Emperor of Dongdu. Yun Sheng was not surprised. She came from modern times. In her opinion, status was not important. Most importantly, she and Dong Huangling were each other's first friends. She is indeed someone from the Dong Huang clan. Sheng, do you still remember what father told you about the few powerful countries in the boundless continent? Yun Songhai hugged his daughter and placed her on his lap. Like a true loving father, he began to talk about the stormy past of the boundless world. The 5 powerful countries are later Qin, Penglai, Immortal Abode, Zhou State and Tangyuan. Yunxing had a photographic memory. When she was in Banana Leaf Village, she did not know much about the history of the continent. However, she still heard about it from Yun Songhai. Through Yun Songhai's narration, Yunxing knew that the 5 powerful countries were once 1,000 years ago. They were all part of the Donghuang dynasty. At that time, the Donghuang dynasty was powerful and unparalleled in the boundless continent. However, since the death of the greatest monarch in the history of the continent, Donghuang Liming, 1,000 years ago, the Donghuang dynasty declined day by day. Finally, more than 900 years ago, the 5 great countries led the way and split up. In the Donghuang dynasty, the most powerful forces were the magicians, warriors, and a summoner. They split up and formed the new structure of the continent. Because the 5 powerful countries were similar in strength, they secretly discussed to keep the Donghuang dynasty as a puppet in the eastern capital. In the past few hundred years, the direct descendants of the royal family had been assassinated and poisoned. The previous emperor of the Donghuang dynasty only lived to 35 years old and passed away early. Furthermore, the rulers of the various countries also restricted the direct descendants of the Donghuang dynasty from learning magic and combat skills. This is also why Huang Ling'er, as a noble princess, only dared to bring a few bodyguards and maids with average strength to secretly come to such an unremarkable place like the Moon Crow Mountain Range to search for Devil Beast Soul Stones. Yun Songhai didn't want to restrict Yun Sheng's circle of friends. Donghuang Ling'er was still young, and she still retained the pride of the royal family. She also did not know that the royal power would become the heaviest shackle on her in the future. She also did not know that it was impossible to learn powerful magic in the Eastern Capital's Magic Academy. Yun Songhai also knew that as a citizen of Zhou State, if Yun Sheng returned to the Yun family, she might one day stand on the opposite side of Donghuang Ling'er. Yun Sheng lowered her head and thought seriously, "Father, even if this is the case, she is still my friend. I will never stand on the opposite side of my friends." Yun Songhai looked at his daughter's determined eyes, as if he saw his ex-wife in her. "Silly child, you'll know when you grow up a bit. You must be tired these days. Now that we're a bit more well off, I'll go rent a carriage in the city and head to Jade Capital." Yun Songhai rented a carriage in the city. He didn't hire a coachman and instead drove the carriage himself. The carriage was much more comfortable than riding a horse. Yun Sheng took out the moon crow fruit and withered butterfly vine that she collected from the Moon Crow Mountain Range and started to concoct meditation water. Before Yun Sheng learned how to use magic, she did not know the importance of meditation water. But now that she learned the flame critical strike, she realized that she did not have enough magic power. With my current physical strength, using the flame critical strike once will almost deplete all the magic power in my body. Under the state of meditation, my recovery is too slow. No wonder I need meditation water. Yun Sheng then started to concoct meditation water. The concoction of meditation water required the use of magic flames. Yun Sheng took out a moon crow fruit and pinched it in her hand. The outer shell of the moon crow fruit was very similar to that of a pine nut. It had a hard outer shell and only fire could melt its outer shell. The fruit juice wrapped in the hard outer shell could be used to concoct meditation water. Yun Sheng circulated the fire magic power in her body. After fusing with a soul stone, her control over magic became more acute. Blazing fire elements enveloped the fruit. After the hard outer shell melted, a white fruit or was revealed. Yun Sheng also refined the withered butterfly vine. Yun Sheng realized that by using fire elements to process medicine, the medicinal properties of the herbs were better preserved. A bottle of meditation water was successfully concocted. The father and daughter continued forward, getting closer and closer to Yujing City. But in the unknown front, there was a restless danger waiting for the father and daughter. None of them could imagine what kind of changes this danger would bring to Yun Sheng. Chapter 60. Unknowingly, Yun Sheng and Yun Songhai had already entered the central region of Zhou State. In the central region of Zhou State, there was a vast and soft sandstone plain. This region lacked the lush vegetation of Banana Leaf Village. It was windy but not rainy and the weather was very dry. On windy days, the sand and stones would hit the carriage's frame, making a creaking sound. On this day, Yun Songhai stopped the horse and looked up at the sky, frowning without saying a word. Yun Sheng noticed that the carriage had stopped and lifted the curtain. For some reason, the sunlight in this area was very dim and weak. Looking at the sky, it was dim and gloomy. It was very similar to the smoggy city in the north where Yun Sheng had lived in her previous life. It was very difficult to see the color of the sky. Father? Yun Sheng keenly noticed that Yun Songhai's expression was very serious. In the wasteland in front of them, there was a small group of people that looked like a centipede moving forward. Father, who are those people? Yun Sheng's eyesight was very good. She even saw the true appearance of this centipede before Yun Songhai. It was a group of refugees made up of the old, weak, women and children. Everyone's face was yellow and thin, and their clothes were shabby. It's refugees. Yun Songhai also saw the appearance of the group. Yun Songhai had been to the central region of Zhou State in his early years. In his memory, this place was not so desolate. Why would such a large group of refugees suddenly appear? The group of refugees had already reached the front of the carriage. Sister, do you have water? A 4 or 5-year-old child walked over and pitifully grabbed the curtain of the carriage. His lips were already cracked like the bark of an old tree. The Yun father and daughter had not brought enough water and dry food along the way. If they took it out rashly, it would only lead to a fight. The few men in the group had an ominous look in their eyes and rushed out like vicious dogs. They looked like they wanted to snatch the luggage of Yun Sheng and the others. Almost in an instant, a wall of fire rose from the ground. The wall of fire was indestructible and shot out fierce flames. The men who intended to commit murder were frightened. They were all inexplicably terrified. A magician, it was a magician. Sir Magician. The men fell to their knees with a few thuds. Honorable Sir Magician, please save us. Yun Songhai hid the magic scepter in his hand under his clothes. His face was full of vigilance. He was not a kind man. To him, his daughter's safety was more important than anything else. Yun Songhai's firewall was fierce and scorching, causing the surrounding temperature to rise by a lot in an instant. The men saw that Yun Songhai was indifferent and stood up in disappointment. They pulled the begging children and helped the dying old man and slowly moved forward. They had long been accustomed to the indifference of passers-by. Along the way they had begged countless passers-by, but when they heard that name their expressions changed greatly. Wait a minute, Yun Songhai suddenly said. He caught a glimpse of the family emblem embroidered on the luggage of an old man at the front of the group. The emblem was a symbol in the shape of an auspicious cloud. The villagers still had some misgivings about Yun Songhai. Yun Songhai removed the wall of fire. At this time, at the back of the group, a young and weak child could not bear the fatigue of the journey and fainted. No matter how his relatives beside him called out, there was no response. Seeing this, Yun Sheng quickly stepped forward. Father, he has a heatstroke. If he is not treated in time he will die, Yun Sheng said and ordered the men to carry the child to the carriage. The area within a radius of a few miles was barren. Only the carriage could serve as a temporary shelter. Yun Sheng immediately opened a bag of water for the child, sprinkled some salt in the water and fed the child a few mouthfuls. Heatstroke could be serious or minor. If it was not treated in time, people would die, especially the weak children and the elderly. Yun Sheng took out a bone needle and poked a few needles on the child's forehead. After some black blood was removed, the child's complexion became slightly better. While Yun Sheng was treating the child, Yun Songhai had already started chatting with an elder in the group. Sir, if I am not wrong, this area is the territory of the Marshal Saint General's residence. You should be the general's subordinates. Leaving your territory without permission is a capital offense. Why did you leave your territory for no reason? In the boundless land, meritorious officials and the royal family would be rewarded after achieving military merits. The land that was given was the territory, and the people who lived in the territory for generations were the subordinates. The subordinates were equivalent to the private property of the lord. Without the lord's orders they could not leave without permission, nor could they move their family. Honorable Sir Magician, it is not that we are not afraid of death, but we have a home that we cannot return to. Our village originally had more than 2,000 people. Ever since that strange cloud came to our village, only these people are left. The elder who was talking to Yun Songhai was the village chief of the village. He sighed and told Yun Songhai that he was indeed a subordinate of the Marshal Saint General's residence. Their village had been living well nearby. About half a month ago, a red cloud floated over the village. The villagers did not pay attention to it at first and only thought that it was a strange cloud. However, as the days passed, strange things happened in the village ever since that cloud appeared. First, the livestock in the village died one after another. Then the well water dried up. Finally, even the crops in the village died. The scariest thing was that the cloud in the sky kept getting bigger. At this moment, our entire village was shrouded by that cloud. Every once in a while, a strange gust of wind would rise from the cloud and suck in dozens of villagers. By the time the villagers realized that something was wrong, more than half of the villagers had already been sucked in by the strange cloud. A strange cloud that could suck people in? Yun Songhai's expression was grave. Something like this happened? You didn't report it to the general's residence? The territory was equivalent to the personal property of the lord. Therefore, any incident that happened must be reported to the lord first. The lord would then send the experts of the family to inspect. We did. We sent them 10 days ago. The villagers who sent the letter have not returned yet. Seeing that the villagers are getting fewer and fewer day by day, I could only risk the death penalty and bring the villagers to a nearby village. The village chief could not help but cry. Shing, you stay here with the villagers. I will go ahead and take a look. Yun Songhai told Yun Sheng to stay where she was. He left the carriage for Yun Sheng and went ahead to explore the village. The Marshal Saint General's residence? Yun Sheng could not help but look at the villagers. Yun Sheng realized that these people were most likely the subordinates of the Yun family. No wonder her father acted abnormally and intervened in this matter. A strange cloud that could suck people in? Was it a monster or an unknown magical beast? What kind of monster was it? She was worried about her father and wanted to go and take a look. They heard the neighing of horses and the screams of women. Everyone looked back and saw a moon-white carriage rushing over at lightning speed. Pulling the carriage were two exceptionally beautiful Gaul horses. Their necks were tall and their hair was dense. Their entire body was white, and not a single strand of hair could be found from head to toe. Driving the carriage were two twins. They were dressed in gorgeous magic robes and looked very delicate. At first glance, one could tell that they were of extraordinary birth. A pregnant village woman was frightened and fell in front of the carriage. Chapter 61. The woman fell to the ground. Her body was wet, and her amniotic fluid had broken. However, it turned red again after a while. That woman was the mother of the child who suffered from heatstroke earlier. Her husband was sucked into the strange cloud 10 days ago, and it was unknown whether he was dead or alive. The woman endured the pain and fled with the villagers with her young child. Earlier, her child had fainted for no reason. Although Yun Sheng had saved him, she had been frightened and her fetus had been affected. Xiaohei, follow them and find father. If there is any situation, tell me immediately. Yun Sheng had no choice but to let Xiaohei go to find Yun Songhai first. Water. Village chief, order people to find some clean water from the nearest water source and thicker blankets. No, we have to find a place where she can give birth and order people to boil a pot of water. Yun Sheng looked at the horse carriage. Although they were not the ones who hit the person, the horse carriage was frightened after all. The two twins in the horse carriage looked indifferent and also got down from the carriage to greet them. The person in the horse carriage was also silent. It was covered tightly with the best quality snow mist silk satin, and they could not tell whether it was a man or a woman sitting inside. Everyone stopped the horse carriage. Yun Sheng saw that the woman was sweating profusely and was in a hurry to give birth. The woman could not be exposed to the wind and could only give birth in a horse carriage. That horse carriage was suitable. It was a matter of life and death. When the villagers heard this, they all mustered up their courage and rushed forward, wanting to stop the horse carriage. Unruly people. You don't know what's good for you. The one on the left of the two twins in the horse carriage saw a group of refugees in shabby clothes suddenly appear in front of them, and his delicate little face was filled with disgust. The magic scepter in his hand flashed with a green light, and a biting cold wind blade rose from the ground and slashed at the refugees who were blocking the road. The one on the right waved his whip and urged the horse carriage to leave. Bang! The dust in front of them surged, and a sharp spike rose from the ground and collided with the wind blade. Seeing that the other party had made a move, Yun Sheng did not back down and immediately drank a bottle of meditation potion. Bang bang bang. Just like a sharpshooter shooting bullets, a series of spikes rose from the ground. The two horses pulling the carriage were frightened and neighed, and had no choice but to stop. Oh! How dare you obstruct the Dharma Temple's carriage? When the boy on the left saw that his wind magic had been countered, he was so angry that he jumped down from the carriage. The boy on the right had a cautious expression as he scanned the crowd. The villagers gathered around them and the village chief walked forward. Little brothers, are you from the Dharma Temple? There's a woman in our village who is about to give birth. I hope that your carriage can shelter her from the wind and sand. When he heard that he had to borrow a carriage to give birth, the little magician from the temple was shocked. What? No. The one in the carriage is our Lord Si Ming. We have urgent matters to attend to, so please move aside. Otherwise don't blame me for being impolite. The other little magician looked much colder, but he also stood in front of the carriage. He quickly waved the magic scepter in his hand, and several icicles blocked the villagers who were swarming over. In the carriage, a white-robed young man sitting cross-legged in meditation heard the commotion outside. He opened his eyes. Outside the carriage window there was an argument going on. A bloody hand pulled open the curtains. "Hey, who are you?" The little magician driving the carriage only just realized that a reckless girl had gone around the back of the carriage and climbed into it. The girl was young, but she was very agile. In just a few moments she had climbed into the carriage, which was more than twice her height. "Get down, your carriage has been requisitioned." Yunxing did not care about the threat. She climbed into the carriage. This person must be obsessed with cleanliness. There was not a speck of dust on the carriage. The table and the tea set were all wiped clean. This was Yunxing's first reaction when she entered the carriage. This person must be obsessed with white. The entire carriage was a world of white. It was whiter than any hospital Yunxing had visited in her previous life. This was Yunxing's second reaction when she entered the carriage. This person, Yunxing's third reaction was too unfair. How could someone look like this? The carriage was not big, but it was still spacious. Under the weak sunlight, a near-perfect face was reflected in Yunxing's eyes. The creator was so amazing. He had actually put the world's most standard and beautiful accessories on the same jade-like flawless face. This is my carriage. Not only the face, but even the voice was as pleasant as spring water. However, the owner of the voice had a strange expression. His amber eyes were a little mischievous. Outside the carriage, the pregnant woman's cries could be heard again. She must not be seduced by a man. Yunxing pulled open the curtains and kicked the young man sitting in the carriage out. In their eyes, the high and mighty lord was kicked out like a ball. Lord Ximing. The two children's faces changed in shock as they rushed forward. The young man in the carriage did not expect that a little girl would have such strength. The moment he was kicked out of the carriage, his body swayed and he stood up steadily. God knew that their Lord Ximing was born with misophobia. Not only did that dirty refugee sneak into the carriage, but he also dared to treat their lord like this. The young man brushed off the dust on his body. His handsome eyes fell on the pregnant woman and the little girl in the carriage. The pregnant woman was already exhausted. Because of the delay just now, her body was covered in blood. She was already exhausted and on the verge of death. The little girl who snatched the carriage stood on the carriage and pulled open the curtains. She instructed the villagers to carry the pregnant woman into the carriage. She nimbly chose two strong village women to get into the carriage. After a while, the curtains of the carriage were pulled down. The young man shook his head as if he did not agree with the little girl's actions. Although it was just a quick glance, he could see that there was something wrong with the position of the woman's fetus. She probably would not be able to give birth. Lord Ximing, there's the aura of the beast blood cloud nearby, the less talkative of the two children said in a low voice. In the carriage, a woman got out anxiously. Village chief, it's not good. I'm afraid we can't keep it. The child is stuck and can't be born. When the village chief heard this, his old face turned ashen. He did not know what to do. The more talkative of the two children curled his lips. Who told you to snatch our carriage? Now 2 lives are lost. The other child glanced at the young man. The young man did not speak. He wanted to see how that domineering little girl would solve this thorny problem. Miss, you can't do this. You'll kill someone. The other village woman in the carriage cried out in shock. The young man could not help but step forward and pull open the curtains. Chapter 62. The young man had just pulled open the curtains when another person was kicked out of the carriage. It was the village woman who had cried out in alarm just now. You come up and help. Yunxing saw that the woman was making a ruckus and simply chased her out. She couldn't help with the delivery alone. The young man didn't speak much and was from the Dharma temple. He must be proficient in treatment and should be able to help by the side. Seeing that the young man was still hesitating, Yunxing ignored the blood on her hand and pulled him up. Hey Lord? The talkative one of the two children almost fainted from anxiety. How could they, the Ximing, see such filthy things? Oh my God, that damned refugee. Once the young man got on the carriage, he saw Yunxing put her hand under the pregnant woman's body as if she was searching for something. Don't just stand there. Hold her hands and feet down and don't let her struggle. Yunxing was already covered in sweat. Her little hand kept searching for the place where the child was stuck. Based on her touch, she could feel that the child's neck was entangled by the umbilical cord. The young man could only brace himself and bear with the stench on his body as he held the pregnant woman's hands and feet down. After a while the child was finally pulled out. However, the child's face was already pale. It was obvious that he had been suffocating for too long and had stopped breathing. "Child, my child." The pregnant woman weakly called out from the side. "It's too late," the young man said regretfully. He shook his head and couldn't help but take another look at the girl. Only then did he realize that she was only a child of 6 or 7 years old. However, what was with her serious gaze and her skillful hand gestures just now? Yun Sheng carried the baby and placed her hand on the baby's naked body. The baby's wet skin was cold and smooth, and his body temperature was dropping bit by bit. There was no breathing and no heartbeat. According to the standards of the boundless land, he was already a dead baby. She fell into silence. "He will come back to life." Yun Sheng suddenly looked up and glared at the young man. Yun Sheng didn't hesitate. Using her index and middle fingers, she pried open the baby's mouth. Then she pressed her hand gently on the baby's forehead and held his chin. She gently blew twice and then pressed on his chest in an orderly manner. "Come to life." With every pulse, Yun Sheng's crisp voice accompanied her movements as she pressed the baby's chest again and again. "Come to life. Your mother is waiting for you." Her hands were red from the pressure, but her eyes were firm and resolute. After a quarter of an hour, the baby's discolored body gradually regained its red color. His curled-up limbs also slowly softened. Yun Sheng picked up the baby and slapped its butt twice. Finally, "Wah wah," cries could be heard from inside the carriage. Outside the car, the villagers all wept with joy when they heard the cries. A new life added a glimmer of hope to this village that had suffered so much. It also added a glimmer of hope to a broken family. Outside the carriage, the two boys were surprised. Could it be that Si Ming had helped them? But before the great Si Ming left, he had clearly warned the young Si Ming that no matter what, he couldn't help anyone to change their fate. The two boys had been with the young man for 5 to 6 years now, so they knew a thing or two about physiognomy. The woman just now had a deathly aura on her face and her forehead was dark. She looked like she was about to die. If it wasn't for Si Ming's help, she wouldn't have been able to come back to life. "Don't just look. Take off your coat." The girl in the carriage and Si Ming alighted together. What made the two boys' eyes almost pop out of the window was that the domineering girl actually shamelessly asked Si Ming to take off his coat to use as a bandage for the baby. A trace of struggle flashed across Si Ming's handsome face, but he eventually took off his coat and handed it to the girl. When she handed over the coat, the girl's fingers touched the young man's fingers gently. Surprise flashed across the young man's eyes for a moment, but it was only for a moment. He quickly concealed the surprise in his eyes. "Village chief, here are some red ginseng, guayao and rock sugar. After you find a place to settle down, cook them for the pregnant woman to drink. She's bleeding a little. The children and the pregnant woman shouldn't be exposed to the wind these few days. Take the carriage and rush to the front. After half a day you should be able to see other villages." Yun Sheng reeked of sweat. She didn't ask who the real owner of the carriage was, but directly arranged for the village chief to lead the villagers to the next village. "Hey, do you have any shame? This is our carriage? Did our Si Ming agree to lend you the carriage?" Seeing Yun Sheng acting so matter-of-factly, the talkative boy couldn't stand it any longer. With his hands on his hips, he pointed at Yun Sheng and scolded. "How much is my face worth? Is it more important than my life? You want me to sell it to you?" Yun Sheng glared. "Besides, are you still willing to take the carriage?" The two boys were speechless at the same time. The carriage that the pregnant woman had stayed in was stained with blood and sweat. With their Si Ming's misophobia, they would definitely not want it. The young man in white shook his head. It was obvious that he didn't want the carriage anymore. "I knew it." Yun Sheng had a knowing look. She packed her luggage and walked forward. Xiao Hei had already left for a while, but there was still no news. She didn't know how her father was doing. "Wait a minute." The talkative boy magician couldn't help but call out to Yun Sheng. "There's a beast blood cloud in front. Do you want to die?" "Beast blood cloud, are you talking about the strange cloud that eats people? My father has already gone ahead to check it out." Yun Sheng didn't care and continued to walk forward. Several icicles suddenly appeared in front of her. Among the boy magicians, the taciturn boy made a move. "Don't be reckless. Your father is going to check it out? How can something like a beast blood cloud be checked by third-rate magicians like you? At this moment, I'm afraid he has already become a meal for the beast blood cloud." The talkative boy magician gloated. He saw that Yun Sheng was dressed simply. Although she knew magic, she didn't even have a basic magician's badge. He guessed that she was just a magician's apprentice who had just learned beginner magic not long ago. Miss, the beast blood cloud is giving birth to a high-level magical beast demon fetus. It's extremely dangerous. It's better if you don't go further. The young man in white suddenly opened his mouth and said. The two boys were stunned. Si Ming actually took the initiative to strike up a conversation with someone. Si Ming was famous for being warm on the outside but cold on the inside. They had followed him for 5 to 6 years, and the number of times they had heard him speak could be counted with 2 hands. But today he actually took the initiative to strike up a conversation with this girl. Yun Sheng could also see that these people were not ordinary. She suddenly realized that her father might really be in danger. Who are you people? At this moment, a loud beast roar came from the front. The ground in front of them shook and a huge magical beast energy rose from the ground like a tornado. The whole ground shook as if it had experienced a tsunami earthquake. Father. An ominous premonition arose in Yun Sheng's heart. She didn't ask any more questions. With a stomp of her feet, she shot forward like an arrow. The young man ordered. He and the 2 other magicians followed closely behind Yun Sheng and rushed to the village in front of them. Chapter 63. 2 hours ago, Yun Songhai left Yun Sheng behind and rushed to Jade Boat Village. Why didn't the residents of Yun send anyone over? 10 days was enough for them to bring the news to the Jade capital. Yun Sheng did not know what the strange cloud that the villagers were talking about was, but Yun Songhai knew. Duqian Beast Blood Cloud. Only the beast blood cloud that floated out of the Duqian blood world would devour all life around it. The beast blood cloud was a terrifying existence that made all the powerful people in the boundless land tremble in fear for the past 1,000 years. Legend had it that at the easternmost part of the boundless land, at the peak of the East Sea, there was a man-made seal of the Cloud Sea. Sealed within the seal was a beast blood cloud sea. That beast blood cloud sea was known as the Duqian Beast Blood Cloud World. That cloud sea was formed from the blood, flesh, evil spirits, and souls of countless demonic beasts that were slaughtered in the boundless land. Although the seal existed, a crack would appear in the seal every 10 years. The blood cloud in the Duqian Beast Blood Cloud Sea would take the opportunity to enter the boundless land through the crack. After the blood cloud entered the land, it would absorb the magical elements and devour living beings. Over time, it would gain spiritual energy and turn into a demonic fetus. Once the fetus matured, it would break out of the clouds and become a high-level demonic beast. The demonic beasts bred in the beast blood cloud were different from the normal demonic beasts in the land. They were gifted and some could even use terrifying sorcery. The village that the villagers were in had encountered the beast blood cloud. When the various countries in the land discovered the existence of the beast blood cloud, they would usually kill it before it hatched and broke out of the clouds. However, Jade Boat Village was remote and the villagers could not get the news to the Jade capital in time. If this dragged on, the beast blood cloud might break out of the clouds when it matured. By then, even the nearby cities would be in trouble, let alone the villagers who were fleeing for their lives. Yun Songhai was a member of the Yun family. Although he betrayed the family for his wife, he could not bear to see the people of the family become homeless. In front of them, a huge blood cloud was crawling on the sand like a ferocious beast with red eyes. That was where the village used to be. The color is as beautiful as blood, and the sound of heartbeats and fetuses can be heard from far away. This beast blood cloud will break through the clouds in at most half a day. Yun Songhai saw the lump of blood cloud expand and completely cover the entire village, and his face sunk like water. Before he could get close to the blood cloud, a small tornado rolled out from the cloud. Yun Songhai quickly chanted, and a dazzling fire arrow hit the hurricane. The hurricane dissipated and the fire arrow disappeared with it. The sky was completely red. The beast blood cloud looked like a cloud. However, Yun Songhai knew that the blood cloud was protected by powerful magical elements. If he wanted to split the cloud and kill the demon fetus in the blood cloud, he would have to use at least high-level magic. From the wind attack and the description of the villagers, although the beast blood cloud has not hatched, but in the beast blood cloud, there must be a powerful magical beast with wind attributes. Yun Songhai clenched his magic staff. A bone-chilling chill once again surged through his body. If he used high-level magic again, the poison in his body would most likely. His daughter's young face constantly hovered in his mind. Yun Songhai slowly put down the magic staff in his hand. Woo! A sound like the sound of the wind came from the beast blood cloud. The magical beast in the beast blood cloud is about to hatch. Yun Songhai no longer hesitated, his tall and thin body, like a javelin, plunged into the blood cloud. Not far away, Xiaohei rushed over. Seeing Yun Songhai plunging into the beast blood cloud, she also followed closely behind, leaping into the beast blood cloud. 2 hours later, on the barren plains, Yun Xing, the young man in white, and the other two hurried over. On the horizon, a blood-red mushroom cloud rose. From afar, it looked like a blood-red Ganoderma. A crack constantly grew in the cloud, and in the cloud, there was a ferocious magical beast that looked like a worm or maggot. Half of the magical beast's body had already left the beast blood cloud. Its body was covered with incubation fluid, and looked as tall as a small building. Around it there were no villages, plants, or any living creatures. It's a wind maggot. After seeing the appearance of the magical beast, the two young magicians said in unison. They looked at the girl with pity in their eyes. Wind maggot beast, a magical beast of the 8th rank. It has the wind magic of the wind vortex, and its swallowing power is astonishing. The girl's father must have been swallowed by this magical beast. Father. Yun Xing looked around, but there was no sign of Yun Songhai. Don't be rash. The young man grabbed Yun Xing, and the two young magicians were shocked again. Young Master Ming actually ignored her mysophobia and grabbed the dirty girl? Get out of my way. Yun Xing shook off the young man, who knew that although the young man looked thin and weak, his strength was astonishing. His hand was like an iron bar, firmly holding Yun Xing in place. A huge fireball rose from the blood cloud, like an eye-catching firework in the dark night. Upon closer inspection, it was not a fireball but a person. In the middle of the beast blood cloud, there was a person floating in the air. That person stood in the air, and a pair of fire elemental wings condensed behind him. He was covered in blood, but the magic scepter in his hand was still flashing with a dazzling light. 5 top-grade fire elemental soul stones. Heavens, it's a sky magician. The two young magicians were shocked again. They did not expect that there would be a sky magician in the middle of this remote country. Who said that Zhou State's power was declining day by day, and that it had fallen to the bottom of the 5 countries. Then what was this sky magician all about? Yun Xing stared blankly at Yun Songhai, her father, who was in the sky. She seemed to have returned to the night when she transmigrated. That man covered in blood had single-handedly killed dozens of black-clothed men. The beast blood cloud was restless, ready to surge over at any time. Next to Yun Xing, the young man in white was shocked. He held a magic scepter in his hand, and there were also 5 fire elemental soul stones on it. In the name of holiness, protect my body, holy shield. As if the sun had suddenly risen from the horizon, Yun Xing only felt a pure white and transparent magic element flowing around her body, and in an instant, a crescent-shaped shield of light was erected in front of the 4 of them. Light magic? He was a light magician? That was true light magic, and in just a few seconds of chanting, he cast an almost perfect shield of light. Are you shocked? You stupid magician, this is the famous young arbiter of fate, Lord Xiao Wenshu, the young magician said proudly. Arbiter of fate? She seemed to have heard this name somewhere before. She did not have time to think about where she had heard this name before. Outside the holy shield of light, there was a violent fluctuation. Yun Songhai raised his magic scepter high. In the beast blood cloud, half of the wind maggot's body had already crawled out. Boom, 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 a series of flames like heavenly lightning and earthly fire lit up the entire sky. In an instant, countless fireballs flapped their wings like locusts, like a meteor shower, lighting up the entire sky. Chapter 64. Fire Esoteric Spell, Sea of Netherworld Flames. At that moment even the holy shield was shaken. After a buzzing sound, a few cracks appeared on the shield. Everyone present was a mage, and there were a few mages from the temple. But from their expressions they had never seen such a powerful fire spell. In other words, they had never seen anyone who could release so many powerful fire spells in one breath. Generally speaking, the more powerful a mage was, the more powerful their spells would be. But even so, it was difficult for them to release so many fireballs at once like the sky mage in front of them. It was truly rare. Sea of Netherworld Flames was a type of spell that could destroy the world by activating the magical elements in an instant. It was 100 times more powerful than a normal fire spell, and it consumed a lot more mana. Under its effect, the beast blood cloud was roasted dry, and the wind maggot beast was cut into several pieces by the powerful fire spell and thrown to the ground. Too powerful. The young magician was dumbfounded, his mouth unable to close. Hey, I say, is he your father? Are you sure you're not adopted? They had seen the girl's magic before, and it seemed to be the most common earth spike magic. This kind of magic was something that all the apprentices in the temple knew. They had only been careless earlier, which was why they had fallen for her trick. But her father was actually a powerful sky magician? The twin mages did not know that Yun Sheng had only been practicing magic for a short period of 10 days. Yun Songhai, who was floating in the air, kept his fire element wings. He turned around and saw his daughter Yun Sheng and smiled. Yun Sheng did not smile. Her gaze fell on the wind maggot beast's body, and she suddenly shouted, "Father, be careful." When the voice sounded, the wind maggot beast's body that had been severed into several pieces began to tremble. It suddenly came to life and flew up, shooting towards Yun Songhai's chest like several sharp arrows. No! Yun Sheng didn't even think about it as she instantly shot out a fiery explosion. Whoosh! An arrow that was radiating light flew through the air. Almost at the same time, an agile shadow moved even faster than the arrow. It bit down on the wind maggot beast's body that was still alive even though it was dead. 3 different directions. A holy light arrow, the nimble Xiao Hei, and a shockingly powerful blazing explosion. Dual elemental magician? His reaction speed was actually faster than everyone else's. The white-robed youth looked at Yun Sheng, but she had already flown towards Yun Songhai. Yun Songhai's chest was pierced by the broken body of the last-rank wind maggot beast, and blood flowed out. Shinger, father. Yun Songhai smiled bitterly. He could feel the life force in his body slipping away bit by bit. Father, don't speak. Shinger will help you stop the bleeding. Yun Sheng trembled as she took out the bone needle. However, her fingers couldn't hold the needle as they trembled uncontrollably. The wind maggot beast's last attack was infused with its last bit of strength. Yun Songhai's lungs and even his heart had been pierced. There was no other way. Even if she stopped the bleeding, there was no way to save her father. There were footsteps behind her. Yun Sheng's eyes were filled with tears. However, she gritted her teeth and tried her best to steady her trembling hands, not letting her tears fall. At that moment, the girl's strong and forbearing look pierced the youth's eyes. The white-robed youth watched from the side and felt a slight pain in his heart. He couldn't explain why, but he felt an inexplicable pain. Leave him to me. Master Si Ming. The twin magicians stopped her at the same time. Could it be that Master Si Ming wanted to use that spell? Yun Sheng hesitated. Through her tears, she saw the honesty on the youth's face. It didn't seem like he was lying to her. A light elemental magician. He was a light elemental magician from the temple. Perhaps he really had a way to save her father. Yun Sheng stepped aside, half believing and half doubting. On his deathbed, Yun Songhai's consciousness was already blurry. He didn't even have time to see the youth take out his magic scepter before he fainted. The white-robed youth took out a magic scepter. On the scepter, 5 magical beast soul stones flickered. A sky magician. Yun Sheng's pupils shrank. A sky magician who was only in his teens. Such a person had actually appeared on the continent. Goddess of light, grant me the power of divine recovery. Heal the pain of all living things, pity the suffering of the world. The chant was like flowing water, beautiful and moving. As if someone was playing a song of praise by her ear, a gentle curtain of light descended from the sky. That light had a miraculous healing power. Under the light's illumination, Yun Songhai's damaged organs recovered as if they had been overturned by water. The broken organs were repaired and the festering flesh and blood quickly regenerated. Even the bones grew back. That was true light elemental magic. It was completely different from the light elemental magic that Yun Sheng had seen great magician Yang use in the Jiaya temple. When the healing light disappeared, the wound on Yun Songhai's chest had already disappeared. Yun Sheng could even see that his chest was gradually rising and falling again. However, Yun Songhai didn't wake up. Yun Sheng took Yun Songhai's pulse and found that his heartbeat and breathing were normal, but he was still unconscious. What's going on? My father? Yun Sheng couldn't find any other problems with Yun Songhai's body. The white-robed youth was also a little puzzled. Logically speaking, any wound would be healed under the light's healing. After he checked, he couldn't help but be startled. He found that Yun Songhai's body had been poisoned. Did your father have a habit of drinking in the past few years? If I didn't guess wrongly, he had been using alcohol to suppress a kind of poison in his body all these years. However, that was only treating the symptoms and not the root cause. Light magic could regenerate the body, but it couldn't really heal the weak body. Yun Songhai's body was like an old machine that had been completely corroded by the poison. This kind of poison could be suppressed with alcohol for a short period of time, but under the condition of drinking, once magic was used, the poison would spread even more violently. Father has never mentioned what kind of poison it is? Could it be that even light magic can't cure it? Yun Xing didn't expect that the truth behind Yun Songhai's drinking was actually like this. This kind of poison, its power is that it can corrode the brain. With my current light elemental magic, I can't cure it. Being unable to cure the poison meant that Yun Songhai would be in a coma forever. The current Yun Songhai, in modern medicine, was equivalent to being in a vegetative state. In the eyes of the people in the boundless continent, a person who was poisoned by this kind of poison was basically equivalent to a dead person. However, the white-robed youth didn't say this truth in the end. He thought that after Yun Xing knew this news, she would be dejected and depressed. Who knew that after a moment of silence, she suddenly smiled brightly, "Many thanks. At least father is still alive. I believe that one day I will be able to find a way to cure him. I am Yun Xing, may I know your name?" Chapter 65. The talkative male magician rushed to say, "Bah, you think a thank you is enough? Do you know that in order to save your father, young Master Simon will have to lose at least?" "Ug, don't talk too much." The white-clothed youth nodded slightly. He was a person of few words and his facial expression was poor. He was definitely expressionless. It was really a waste of his good looks. Fortunately, his words were concise and powerful, which was very compatible with his immortal-like temperament. "I am Xia Wenshu from the Dharma Temple. Saving him is just a matter of convenience. You don't have to be polite." As the white-clothed youth spoke, his gaze landed on the remains of the wind maggot beast not far away. Xia Siming. No wonder she felt that she had heard of his name before. The Xia Siming that the great magician of Qi City's Dharma Temple mentioned was actually him. The teenage sky magician Xia Wenshu. She remembered this name. "Miss Yun, can you give me the remains of this wind maggot beast?" Xia Wenshu's face was slightly red. Although there were many branched Dharma temples on the mainland such as Jianghu Temple and Qi City's Dharma Temple, there was only one true Dharma Temple. Although Yun Xing did not know the status of Siming in the Dharma Temple for the time being, there was no doubt that Xia Wenshu's status was very honorable. It was already a great honor for him to be willing to ask for it. This time he was here for the beast blood cloud. The magical beasts bred in the beast blood cloud were extraordinary. All these years, the Dharma Temple had been working hard to kill the beast blood cloud and collect the magical beasts in the beast blood cloud. This wind maggot beast was killed by Yun Songhai. According to the practice of the boundless land, the masterless magical beasts belonged to the killer. Yun Songhai was unconscious, and the wind maggot beast should be under Yun Sheng's control. That was why Xia Wenshu asked Yun Sheng to give up the wind maggot beast. At this moment, Xiao He was sneakily holding a piece of the wind maggot beast's broken limb in its mouth. The magician called Yu Ji and Xiao He were confronting each other. A human and a dog. It was a funny sight. Yun Sheng also noticed Xiao He's sneaky actions. Xiao He seemed to be particularly interested in high-level magical beast meat. This wind maggot beast was a high-level magical beast, and its meat was rich in magical elements. Unfortunately, Xia Wenshu had already asked for it. The people from the Dharma Temple had traveled thousands of miles just to reach this barren village. They would definitely not give up the remains of the wind maggot beast so easily. "Xia Siming, you're too polite. You saved my father, so I'll give this wind maggot beast to you as a reward." Yun Xing helped Yun Songhai up. Her small body helped the tall Yun Songhai up. Xia Wenshu's eyes flashed slightly, and a certain part of his heart was touched. He suddenly asked, "Where does Miss Yun want to go?" The father and daughter's carriage was still parked not far behind. "Let's settle father first, then think of a way to cure the poison." Yun Xing called out to Xiao He. Although Xiao He had the magical beast meat snatched from its mouth, it was not angry. It followed Yun Sheng and helped to support Yun Songhai's body, sharing some of its little master's weight. There's no cure for this poison. Xia Wenshu wanted Yun Sheng to give up on this idea. It can't be cured now, but it doesn't mean it can't be cured in the future. I've seen people with similar symptoms wake up. Besides, there's no disease in the world that can't be cured. As a doctor, Yun Sheng had seen countless people grow old and die, but she had also seen many miracles in life. And those miracles required patience and perseverance. Supporting her father and leading Xiao He, Yun Xing walked forward resolutely. "Young Master Ming, why didn't you tell them the truth about the poison in that person's body?" The twin sorcerers besides Xia Wenshu, the talkative one was called Yu Ji, and the quiet one was called Umo. The one who spoke was the usually quiet Umo. "You can see that it's not poison, but the beast blood curse of the Zhao state." Yun Sheng's figure had already disappeared into the distance, and Xia Wenshu felt a sense of loss. If she knows the truth, I'm afraid she won't let it go. That was why he chose to hide it. The Zhao state and the Temple of Dharma were inextricably linked, and he could not break the balance between the two for the time being. Young Master Ming, you're too kind. Her father must be an extremely evil person. Otherwise, the Zhao state wouldn't have placed a beast blood curse on him. She can't possibly fight against the entire Zhao state alone. Yu pursed his lips. Their young Master Ming was too kind. The Zhao state and the Temple of Dharma had always prided themselves on punishing evil and promoting good. If they weren't evil people, they wouldn't use a curse as vicious as the beast blood curse. Life is unpredictable. I can't see through her fate, Xia Wenshu said calmly. What? There's a fate that even you can't see through? Xia Wenshu had the gift of the all-seeing eye since birth. He could see through a person's past and future with just simple physical contact. However, seeing through a person's fate was like saving their life. If he revealed too much, he would be punished by the heavens. Hence, Xia Wenshu's master, the Temple of Dharma's elder, had ordered him not to use light-healing magic or the all-seeing eye unless absolutely necessary. However, just now when he came into contact with Yun Sheng, he unintentionally used his heaven's eye. All he saw was a cloud of fog. A fate that even young Master Ming can't see through? That's really rare, Yu said curiously. Not necessarily. Have you forgotten that other than young Master Ming's own fate, there's another person's fate that young Master Ming can't see through? Yu thought of someone. Wasn't the blind former crown prince of Zhou state someone that young Master Ming couldn't see through as well? Speaking of which, I heard a piece of news from the Dharma temple. A few days ago, the former crown prince who was confined in the cold palace was released. Yu had a lively personality and loved to gossip. He was especially knowledgeable about the royal families of various countries. What's even more bizarre is that his eyes have recovered. What? You're saying that Yi Baiming, who even great Master Ming couldn't cure, has regained his sight? Even Yu who usually didn't care about such news, couldn't help but be curious after hearing this news. Xia Wenshu was also shocked. Could it be that there was a higher level of healing magic than the light magic that the Dharma temple had? Presumably, after hearing this news, Master would also be very shocked. Tidy up the remains of the wind maggot beast. We have to return to the Dharma temple as soon as possible. Xia Wenshu ordered the twin magicians to tidy up the broken limbs of the wind maggot beast before leaving. Not long after Xia Wenshu and the others left, a horse carriage rumbled along. A Xiaohei dog jumped out of the carriage. Xiaohei dog searched the ground and dug for a while before finding a small piece of wind maggot beast meat. Xiaohei, you're smart enough to hide a piece of meat. I'll make it into jerky on the way. You and Puffed Egg will benefit from it then. Yun Xing patted Xiaohei's head. The wind maggot beast's body was very long. After being blasted by Yun Songhai's magic, pieces of it were scattered all over the place. Even if one piece was missing, the Dharma temple wouldn't know. Xiaohei was very clever. While the people in the Dharma temple weren't paying attention, she secretly buried a piece of meat under the ground. Let's go. I'll definitely bring Father to the Jade Capital. I believe that with the help of the Yun family, Father will definitely wake up. Yun Xing whipped the horse and the horse carriage rushed forward. Chapter 66. Yujing City, the capital of Zhou State, is the largest city in the southwest region of the boundless continent. A few days ago, in the Imperial Firmament Hall of Zhou State, close to 100 civil and military officials were attending morning court. 1,000 years ago, the Great Zhou Empire was founded on martial arts, and martial arts had always been the foundation of the Great Zhou Empire. Therefore, in the morning court there should be many military officials. However, in the past few years, because the number of martial artists in the Great Zhou Empire had withered, in the court, there was a situation where the civil and military officials each occupied half the sky. The civil officials were led by the newly risen Elder Chen and Scholar Zhao, while the military officials were led by Marquis Jiyuan and the Marshal Saint General's estate. Reporting to your Majesty, there are many waves of refugees in Zhou State and we don't know how to settle them. The head of the civil officials, Elder Chen, stepped forward. The atmosphere in today's morning court was a little unusual. Order all the officials to settle the refugees in the vicinity and not to drive them away. Have you found out the cause of the waves of refugees? The ruler of Zhou State, Yi Qingtian, was in his prime and had a dignified appearance. This subject has already ordered people to investigate. It is caused by the beast blood clouds that have been very active in various countries in recent years. Wherever the beast blood clouds appear, it is difficult for humans and animals to survive. The area where the beast blood clouds appeared recently is Jade Boat Village in the central region. which is the territory of the Martial Saint General's estate. This subject believes that the Martial Saint General himself has an undeniable responsibility for the attack on his territory. Elder Qin pointed his finger at the Martial Saint General Yun Ba, who had been resting with his eyes closed. What he meant was that the Martial Saint General didn't have enough supervision and couldn't even take care of his own territory. Elder Qin had a lot of prestige among the civil officials. The moment he finished speaking, a few civil officials stepped forward and started denouncing him. Yi Qingtian had a helpless expression. It's starting again. He glanced at the calm and composed Marquis of Jun, as well as Scholar Zhao, who rejoiced in his misfortune. Martial Saint General. Martial Saint General. The civil officials spoke until their mouths were dry. However, they didn't expect that it was like punching cotton. After a long time, the Martial Saint General Yun Ba didn't react. Only a light snoring sound could be heard. The snoring sound came from an old man in his 70s. The old man was tall, had a lion-like nose, tiger-like eyes, and a full face of white beard. He didn't look young at all. He was the famous Martial Saint General of Zhou State, Yun Ba. In the entire Zhou State, old General Yun was probably the only person who dared to openly sleep in the imperial court. The Emperor of Zhou, Yi Qingtian, coughed heavily. Only then did Yun Ba's white beard tremble as if he had just woken up from a dream. He said loudly, "If there's something to report, if there's nothing to report, court is dismissed. This official is old and cannot stand for too long. This official requests that this official withdraw from court early. May your majesty investigate this matter." With that, Yun Ba withdrew from the court. He left behind a group of civil officials who could only stare at him helplessly. "Yun Ba, you old fool." Elder Qin was so angry that his beard was blowing and his eyes were glaring. However, all he could do was feel annoyed. After all, the Martial Saint Old General was the martial arts master of several generations of emperors of Zhou State. Even the current princes of Zhou State were all personally taught by the Old General. Although this old fellow had aged over the years, his prestige still remained. However, the Martial Saint Old General's manor had been without a successor for many years. There was only a crippled son and a widowed daughter left in the manor. The Marquis of Jiyuan could only stand up. "Your Majesty, this official believes that we still need to send someone to capture the beast blood cloud. I heard that not only the temple, but even some bounty hunters have joined in the hunt for the beast blood cloud. It's rumored that the other countries are also searching for the beast blood cloud's whereabouts. This official believes that we should not fall behind in this matter." As the Duqian beast blood cloud became increasingly active, a rumor began to spread throughout the continent. It was said that the demonic beasts within the beast blood cloud had extraordinary magical powers. Its flesh and even soul stones had become rare items that martial artists and magicians would fight over. When the civil officials heard this, they sneered coldly. "Capture? You make it sound nice. The beast blood cloud appears and its whereabouts are unpredictable. It's said that even the temple has only killed a small portion of the beast blood cloud. If the Marquis of Jiyuan and the Martial Saint Old General have the ability to do so, you can send someone to capture it." The Marquis of Jiyuan fell silent. Needless to say, the beast blood cloud was a very dangerous demonic beast. The demonic beasts bred within it were all extremely powerful. It was said that the temple had only managed to kill them after sending out a sky-rank magician. Although the Zhou state did not lack martial artists who could compete with the beast blood cloud, most of them were outsiders who did not take orders from the imperial court. There were indeed a few hidden experts in the imperial court, but they were only responsible for protecting the imperial family and would never leave the imperial capital. Only a few military officials were left who could go on expeditions. The Marquis of Jiyuan only had one daughter and no son. As the commander of the imperial guards, he could not leave the capital. The Martial Saint Old General was old and could not go on expeditions. For a moment, there was no one in the imperial court to send. Someone suddenly said, "It would be great if young General Yun was still here." Hearing this, Emperor Zhou and the Marquis of Jiyuan's expressions changed. The Martial Saint Old General originally had 2 sons and 1 daughter. Young General Yun was referring to the Yun family's second young master, Yun Songlong. Everyone knew that the Yun family had 2 sons. One was a magician and the other was a martial artist. Due to tradition, the Zhou state had always had very few magicians. Yun Songhai was the youngest sky magician in the history of the Zhou state. Unfortunately, because of a woman, he cut off his relationship with old General Yun and was chased out of the Jade capital. Some people said that he died outside, while others said that he lived in seclusion. A talented sky magician would be a great help to the great Zhou country's national fortune. it was hard for people to estimate. After Yun Songhai left, the Yun family's second son had his arms crippled by the enemy on the battlefield and became a cripple. The Marshal Saint Old General's manor, which was originally known as the Empire's twin paragons, declined. Old General Yun also seemed to have aged 10 years in a day and could no longer be seen in the imperial court. In the blink of an eye, 10 years had passed. Even Emperor Zhou did not dare to mention Yun's matter in front of the Marshal Saint Old General. Reporting to the Emperor, Wuxia Limitless Martial School's Vice Schoolmaster Zhan Li requests an audience outside the hall. A eunuch walked in and broke the silence in the imperial court. Summon him. Wuxia Limitless Martial School was the #1 martial school in the Zhou state. Vice Schoolmaster Zhan Li must have come personally for the Blood Cloud Beast. A middle-aged man with broad eyebrows strode into the hall. Behind him stood a person. When he saw that person, Emperor Yun Qingtian of the Zhou state's hand, which was resting on the dragon throne, trembled. The officials in the imperial court were also shocked. Was him. What was he doing here? Emperor Yun of the Zhou state looked a little uncomfortable. He did not like this son of his ever since he was born, especially after he heard the prediction made by Elder Si Ming of the Dharma Temple. It's grand? No, it's Duke Baiming. The officials discussed. Dressed in black, the former crown prince of the Zhou state, Yi Baiming, walked into the Emperor Shao Palace. He was young and handsome, with a pair of gray eyes that looked disdainfully at the officials. As soon as he appeared, the officials were in an uproar. Even the Marquis of Jiyuan could not help but look at him. This was the blind prince who was rumored to have been confined in the cold palace and was the least favored. After Crown Prince Yi Baiming was dethroned, he was given the title of Duke Baiming. He had been confined in the cold palace in the name of recuperating from his blindness. His eyes. This was the first time the emperor and officials of the Zhou state saw Yi Baiming after so many years. His blind eyes were now shining brightly. Gray. After Yi Baiming regained his sight, the layer of fog that covered his eyes was also dispelled. His eyes, the eyes that had regained their sight after losing sight, were the color between black and white, between good and evil, gray. The former crown prince of the Zhou state, the current crown prince Yi Baiming, knelt on the ground and said in a voice like broken jade, "Father, please send me to various places to hunt down the Blood Cloud Beast." Chapter 67. Jade Capital was the most prosperous city in the western part of the boundless continent. It was close to Zhou River and had convenient transportation. There was a Dharma Temple, Hunters Guild, Sky Beast Harbor, and Sea Dock. It was also the place where doctors and scholars from all over the country gathered. The local agricultural and commercial industries were flourishing. Every day, tens of thousands of foreigners would come here. This was also the capital of the strong. Magicians, warriors, and even summoners, which were rare on the continent, would appear in this area. Yun Sheng and Xiao He brought the unconscious Yun Songhai to Jade Capital 7 or 8 days later. She didn't know that a few days before she reached Jade Capital, Yi Baiming was ordered to head to various places in Zhou State to begin his journey to capture the beast Blood Cloud. Yun Sheng and Yi Baiming had unfortunately brushed past each other. It was also from then onwards that Yi Baiming, who had regained his sight, became known as War God Zhou Wu. Yun Sheng, on the other hand, rose rapidly with multiple identities. The love and hate between the two of them had just begun, but that was a story for another time. To enter Jade Capital, one had to pay a silver coin to enter the city. Seeing that Yun Sheng, who was only a little girl, was actually driving a carriage into the city, a few city guards couldn't help but go forward to check. Just as they lifted the curtain, a black dog scuttled out. That black dog had short black fur, and its neck was tilted to the right comically. However, none of the city guards dared to underestimate this black dog. The black dog seemed to have a part of the wolf mastiff's bloodline. Its skin was shiny as if it had been waxed. Its body was about the size of a lamb, and its limbs were strong and powerful. Once it saw a stranger, it revealed its sharp teeth and looked rather ferocious. That was Xiao He. After Xiao He grew a piece of the wind maggot beast's meat, its body shape changed. Yun Sheng still couldn't tell its rank, but Xiao He was much stronger than before. It looked like it could compete with a hunting dog or even a mastiff. "Brothers, my father is in the carriage. He's from the Jade Capital, but because he contracted a terrible disease, he can't be exposed to the wind." Yun Sheng looked worried. Along the way she had put in a lot of effort to take care of Yun Songhai. The most troublesome thing about a vegetative state was not the daily management, but the inability to eat. If this continued, even a strong elephant would gradually weaken. Since the boundless world didn't have the modern equipment to deliver nutrient fluids, Yun Sheng could only rely on a straw to feed Yun Sanghai some expensive ginseng soup. She had spent more than half of the gold coins she obtained from the bounty of the magical beasts. Even so, Yun Sanghai was still losing weight day by day. It had only been 7 or 8 days, but Yun Sanghai was already skin and bones. Yun Sheng couldn't help but feel sad when she saw it. She rushed to the Jade capital without rest, hoping to reach the general's residence as soon as possible to find a way to save her father. He's a patient. What kind of disease did he contract? If it's a contagious disease, he's not allowed to enter the city. A few soldiers were in a difficult position. The Jade capital was a big city and also the capital of a country. Countless people came and went every day. To prevent epidemics from entering the city, there were special rules in the city. Anyone with a contagious disease was not allowed to enter. My father's disease isn't contagious. It's a rare coma. We're here to seek refuge with our relatives. Brothers, please do us a favor and let us in? Yun Sheng was a little anxious. She didn't expect the Jade capital to have such rules. Young lady, it's not that we don't want to accommodate, but if the higher-ups blame us, we'll lose our heads. How about this? One of us will go in first and leave the carriage at the city gate. When you find your relative in the city, ask him to bring the certificate of a doctor or above in the city before coming to pick up your father. The city guard saw that Yun Sheng was young and her clothes were old and tattered. When he saw that she was taking care of her relative alone, he couldn't help but feel pity for her and pointed out the right path for her. Yun Sheng thanked the city guard. After settling the carriage, she ordered Xiao He to watch over the carriage. She then asked the passers-by for the location of the Marshal Saint General's residence and sprinted over. The Jade capital was huge. Yun Sheng heard that the general's residence was located in Wuning Alley. That area was also where the residences of military officials of rank 5 and above were concentrated. Yun Sheng only knew that Yun Sanghai was from the general's residence, but she didn't know anything about the Marshal Saint General's residence. When she was in Banana Leaf Village, Yun Sheng roughly knew about martial artists because she became the village's big sister later on. Martial artists were the same as magicians and were divided into different ranks. For example, Lei Hu of Banana Leaf Village was only a beginner martial artist. As for Ding Mao of Firecliff Village, he was a martial master. From beginner to higher ranks, martial artists were martial artist, 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 martial artist. The Yun family was called the Marshal Saint General's residence because there were 2 martial saints in the Yun family. Besides that, Yun Sanghai's father, who was also Yun Sheng's grandfather, was also a martial saint. A martial saint was equivalent to a saint-level guardian king among magicians. In the entire Zhou state there were no more than 3 martial saints. Among them, old General Yun had been a martial saint for the longest time. Therefore, to the citizens of Zhou state, the martial saint general was like the Big Dipper. Yun Sheng had never seen this legendary grandfather of hers before. But just by standing outside the Marshal Saint General's residence, she could feel a sinister aura. Outside the Marshal Saint General's residence, there were 2 majestic stone lions made of red iron standing on both sides of the gate. 2 dignified guards were guarding the gate. Just the guards were 2 martial artists. Only the general's residence would use a martial master as a guard. One had to know that in other cities, martial masters could also independently become instructors in their dojos. Yun Sheng was just about to step forward when she suddenly heard the door open. A luxuriously dressed boy walked out of the general's residence with a few ferocious blood-claw wolves. The great Zhou dynasty revered martial arts, and in the manners of the 5th-rank officials, besides having guards, some of the nobles and officials even had their own magical beast breeding grounds, which were used to raise various ferocious magical beasts. In addition to allowing the disciples of the clan to practice martial arts, during the annual spring and autumn hunt, they could also bring the magical beasts to hunt. The Jade capital at the end of the 5th month already had the scorching heat of early summer. The boy who came out was about 2 to 3 years older than Yun Sheng. His facial features were not bad and his posture was agile. It was obvious that he had been practicing martial arts since he was young. "Good morning, young master. Where are you going with the magical beast?" The guards bowed respectfully. The boy who came out was old General Yun's widowed 3rd daughter, Yun Sangshua's late husband, Tang Yu. Yun Sangshua's husband was originally Yun Ba's right-hand man. Who would have thought that he would unfortunately lose his life in the chaos at the border? Yun Sangshua was also known for her crafty temper. She did not get along well with her mother-in-law, so she brought her only son, Tang Yu, back to the general's residence. Yun Songhai did not have any grandchildren. Tang Yu was also very clever. At a young age, he had already passed the martial arts examination and was very much favored by Yun Songhai. We saw that the 2 blood claw wolf pups we just bought were bored, so we brought them out for a walk. Tang Yu chased the wolf pups out after he finished speaking. Who would have thought that the wolf pups had just entered the residence and were still wild? Just as they walked out of the residence, they saw Yun Sheng standing not far from the entrance. They opened their mouths and pounced towards Yun Sheng. Chapter 68. Tang Yu, who grew up in the Marshal St. General's residence, had a domineering temper. When the 2 blood claw wolves pounced out, he was shocked. However, when he saw that the wolf cubs were pouncing towards a little girl who was covered in dust and looked like a beggar, Tang Yu did not stop them. Instead, he clapped his hands and cheered, "Wolf Fong Wolf Hammer, bite her to death." She was just a little beggar. Biting her to death was just a matter of a straw mat and a few stacks of paper money. Blood claw wolves were magical beasts of the wolf clan that lived in tropical forests. They were born at the 3rd level. Even though they were just cubs, their claws and teeth were very lethal. Civilians who were attacked by them would die. For people who were not summoners, there was only one way to get close to magical beasts. That was to raise magical beast cubs since they were young. This way, when the magical beast grew up, it would become a battle pet. The difference between a battle pet and a summoner's battle beast was huge. Most of the battle pets could not evolve. However, in the Jade Capital, there were still many officials who liked to buy some baby beasts for the safety of their descendants. This also caused the practice of raising battle pets in the Jade Capital. It had become a popular and status symbol. Tang Yu's 2 blood claw wolves were bought by his mother, Yun Sangxue, after he passed the martial master examination. The 2 blood claw wolves had red fur and looked like balls of fire. They looked very adorable. Tang Yu took care of them daily and loved them very much. In Tang Yu's eyes, a trash-like beggar appearing in a place like Waning Alley was a kind of stain. When the guards saw this, they wanted to stop them. However, this little ancestor threatened, "Don't go up. Those are Wolf Fong's snacks. Whoever wants to save her will get out of the Marshal St. General's residence immediately." The Marshal St. General was getting older and no longer cared about the matters in the residence. Since the 2nd young general was crippled, he was also depressed. Unknowingly, all the affairs in the residence fell into the hands of Yun Sangxue. Although the guards knew that it was wrong for battle pets to hurt people, they did not dare to go up when they thought of being chased out of the Marshal St. General's residence and losing their jobs. Faced with this unexpected disaster, Yun Sheng was thinking about how to go up and ask when she suddenly felt her eyelids twitching. She looked up and saw 2 hungry wolves pouncing towards her. Not far away, the well-dressed boy was cheering non-stop. Yun Sheng felt a chill run down her spine. She suddenly realized that the child must be the young master of the general's estate. At such a young age, he was already so vicious. What a domineering general's residence. The eyes of the 2 Tier 3 wolf cubs were filled with greed, as if they had already tasted fresh human flesh. But just as they were about to taste the fat meat in their mouths, the short figure in front of them suddenly disappeared. Yun Sheng slipped and dodged the 2 wolf pups. She grabbed the bone needle and quickly rubbed it on the wolf pup's waist. The 2 young wolves howled and fell to the ground. There was not a single wound on their bodies, but upon inspection, one would find a needle hole in their spine. Legend has it that wolves have copper heads, iron tails, and soft waists. Yun Sheng had just pierced the 2 bone needles into the wolf pup's waists. She had opened up her second strange tendon, and with her current jade marrow skill, she could use it freely. The hidden needles were invisible, but one needle was fatal. The 2 Tier 3 wolf pups were instantly killed by her. But in the eyes of others, after she staggered and dodged, the 2 wolves suddenly fell to the ground dead. Outside the general's estate, Tang Yu was still clapping his hands as if he had been petrified. The guards were also very surprised. When they went up to take a look, the 2 wolf pups were already dead. "Damn beggar, you killed our wolves." Tang Yu flew into a rage out of humiliation. He did not care that he was in front of the general's estate and jumped in front of the little beggar with a fierce look on his face. "Ridiculous, it was your wolves that attacked me first. Besides, which eye of yours saw me kill them?" Yun Sheng did not even look at Tang Yu, as if he was a pile of mud that was not worth her attention. "It was you. You lowly beggar, do you know how much my wolves are worth? 1 wolf is worth 10 gold coins, even 10 of your lowly lives are not worth it." Tang Yu saw that Yun Sheng was young, but when she confronted him, she did not have the slightest intention to back down. He could not help but become even angrier. In their eyes, a dirty beggar was worthless. Lowly lives? You can't afford my life. Yun Sheng said as she took out her magician's badge and hung it in front of her lapel. Seeing the magician's badge, the guards of the general's estate immediately stopped the little young master who was about to explode. The little ancestor had really gotten into trouble this time. In recent years, Zhou State's talents had withered, especially magicians who were very rare in Zhou State. In order to attract magicians from other countries in the periphery, Emperor Zhou not only established a magic academy, but also issued a law that all registered magicians and summoners were protected by the state's law. Those who hurt others without permission would be fined 50 gold coins and given 30 lashes. If the other party was a little beggar, the little ancestor could have just hit him and spent some money to settle the matter. But the other party was a magician and only 6 years old. A magician of this age was rare in Zhou State. If the temple investigated, the old general would definitely be furious. Yun Sheng's sorcerer badge looked real at first glance. It didn't look fake. The guards explained the severity of the matter, especially when he heard that she would be whipped. Tang Yu's face also changed. He was not old, but after all he was a descendant of a general, so he was most familiar with military law. What should I do? Who knows she's a magician? Don't all magicians wear their badges on their chests and swagger through the streets like peacocks? Tang Yu secretly muttered in his heart. But on second thought, what was there to be afraid of? At most, he could just use money to get rid of her. Tang Yu took out his money bag, who knew that just as he was about to take out some money, his vision turned black. Slap, slap, slap. Like a string of firecrackers exploding, Yun Sheng slapped him 3 times in a row. Tang Yu's face, which could still be considered pretty, was now like an inflated balloon, swollen and red. It was a tragic sight. He was stunned by the beating. Even his own mother had never hit him like this before. Yun Sheng's movements were extremely fast. After she was done, Tang Yu finally reacted. The guards were also dumbfounded. Little bastard. You dare to hit me, I'll kill you. Tang Yu pulled out a dagger from his waist and thrust it towards Yun Sheng. Little bastard, who are you calling a bastard? My name is Yun Sheng, I have a name and a surname. I'm Yun Songhai's daughter. You scolded me as a little bastard. That's equivalent to scolding the entire general's household, including your 18 generations of ancestors. Yun Sheng's face was full of arrogance, her black jade-like eyes emitting an intimidating dark light at that moment. At this time, a well-dressed woman accompanied by 2 well-dressed servant girls came out, just in time to witness the scene of Yun Sheng teaching Tang Yu a lesson. After hearing Yun Sheng's words, the well-dressed woman's expression suddenly changed, and the servant girls beside her were also astonished. Chapter 69. Yun Songhai's daughter? After hearing Yun Sheng's identity, not only was the woman not happy, a trace of resentment flashed through her eyes. That person was actually still alive. She didn't expect that after 10 years, his bastard had already grown so big. However, she immediately returned to her normal state. Tang Yu was already scared silly. When he saw the woman, he shouted, "Mother, this little bastard hit me." She even said that she was grandfather's granddaughter. I don't have such an ugly cousin. Yun Sheng couldn't help but feel angry when she was described as an ugly girl by a pig. However, she also guessed the identity of this woman and Tang Yu. The daughter of the Marshal Saint General's estate, Yun Sangxue, who temporarily lived in the general's estate as a widow after marriage. She could be considered Yun Sheng's third aunt. However, Yun Sheng didn't have a good impression of Yun Sangxue at first glance. Yun Sangxue didn't have any resemblance to her father, Yun Songhai. Her appearance wasn't bad and her figure was elegant. However, her slightly upturned eyes made her look a bit mean. Yun Sangxue looked at Yun Sheng with disgust, then looked at her son's face with heartache. Damn bastard, how dare you hit her precious eggs. She was also Yun Songhai's daughter. Humph, they did look similar, but she would never let Yun Songhai's daughter take half a step into the general's estate. Everything in the general's estate belonged to her. You just said that you are Songhai's daughter? What proof do you have and where is Yun Songhai? Yun Sangxue raised her eyelids slightly and only glanced at Yun Sheng from the corner of her eyes. She clearly didn't put her in her eyes. Father is sick and is still outside the city. I want to invite. Although Yun Sheng didn't like Yun Sangxue, considering Yun Songhai's condition, they couldn't delay, so they could only reply. Impudent. He actually dares to return to the general's estate. Men, do you still remember what the old general said? If we meet Yun Songhai and his bastards, what should we do? Yun Sangxue was a ferocious woman from a family of generals. When she spoke, she had the aura of the old General Yun Ba, a martial saint. She was already a martial ancestor. The guards looked at each other. Under Yun Sangshua's forceful gaze, one of them had no choice but to step forward. The old general said that if Yun Sanghai brings his son back to the Fu, he must bow 3 times and kowtow 9 times. He must bow and apologize to the ancestors of the General Fu before he can kneel and enter the Fu. What else? What if Yun Sanghai and his bastard son don't keep their word? Yun Sangshue comforted his son Tang Yu. His eyes were filled with schadenfreude. If they don't obey, they will be beaten to death. Even if they die, they won't be allowed to take a single step into the general's estate. After the guard finished speaking, he looked at Yun Sheng with pity. This girl was young, but she had reacted quickly when facing the blood-clawed wolves. She was also a sorcerer. It was very likely that she really was the daughter of the young General Yun who had left home. Bow 3 times and kowtow 9 times, beat to death. These words were deeply engraved in Yun Sheng's mind. She remembered her father's increasingly thin body and the humiliation of the mother and son in front of her. All right, Yun Sheng. Today you refuse to enter the Fu. In the future, when I, Yun Sheng, am successful, I will let you have a taste of what it means to be beaten to death and bow 3 times and kowtow 9 times. Yun Sheng didn't have much affection for the general's estate. She also didn't covet the glory and wealth of the general's estate. Since the general's estate couldn't tolerate them, she definitely wouldn't seek humiliation. Yun Sheng turned around and left Waning Alley without looking back. Yun Sangshue only felt that Yun Sheng's words had a hidden sharpness. Being stared at by her pitch-black eyes, she felt a chill down her spine. Yun Sangshue secretly gave a look to the maidservant behind her, and that maidservant quietly followed her. I don't want anyone else to know about what happened today. Yun Sangshue warned the 2 guards. The guards could only nod their heads in agreement. After Yun Sheng left Waning Alley, she heard a series of footsteps behind her. She didn't need to turn around to know that Yun Sangshue must have secretly asked someone to follow her. Yun Sangshue didn't seem to be a kind person. She definitely couldn't reveal her and her father's whereabouts. Yun Sheng quickened her steps. She had a 5-elemental Dharma spirit in her body. She secretly circulated the wind elemental magic and shuttled through the streets and alleys of the Jade capital, shaking off the maidservant who was tailing her. However, it was Yun Sheng's first time in the Jade capital, and she unknowingly took a detour to a dilapidated street. This street was like a completely different world from the Martial Saint General's residence. Although they were both located in the Jade capital, there was a huge disparity between the rich and the poor. This street was narrow and dilapidated, and the shops on both sides were completely deserted. Yun Sheng suspected that the people from Waning Alley would never come to such a place in their entire lives. There's actually a clinic nearby? Yun Sheng couldn't obtain the recognition of the general's residence, which also meant that her idea of getting a doctor from the general's residence to prove that her father wasn't infected with the plague had failed. She had no choice but to find a local doctor in the Jade capital to issue a certificate before she could bring her father into the city to seek treatment. After taking a few steps, Yun Sheng saw the words "miraculous hands, guaranteed to cure all diseases" hanging in front of her. However, there was another board hanging at the entrance of the clinic. There were a few lines of crooked words written on it. As she continued reading, Yun Sheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. On the small board, there were words, "Issued on behalf of all kinds of certificates, including the treatment of infertility and all kinds of gynecological diseases." This was almost exactly the same as the unlicensed Xiaohei clinics in the modern world. She wondered if the doctor who issued on behalf of the clinic had the qualifications to be a doctor. With a doubtful heart, Yun Sheng turned into the clinic. It was an extremely simple and crude clinic. There were only a few medicine cabinets and a table of uneven height. A lean man was sitting in the medicine cabinet, half asleep. He must be the owner of this clinic. "May I ask if you can help me issue a certificate for the plague? One of my relatives wants to enter the city, but because he's severely infected, the city guards won't allow him to enter." After Yun Sheng finished speaking, the man at the counter didn't respond for a long time. "May I ask?" Yun Sheng walked forward and took a closer look. She realized that the man had fainted. "Not good?" Yun Sheng hurriedly helped the man up. After looking at him for a while, she couldn't help but smile bitterly. How was this person sick? He clearly hadn't eaten for many days and had fainted from hunger. Yun Sheng had no choice but to take out the dry food she carried with her. She also took out some water to feed the unconscious doctor. Unexpectedly, just as she took out the dry food, The lean man at the counter smelled the fragrance of the food. He immediately jumped up and wolfed down the dry food in her hands. He said while eating, "Finally someone came. I'm starving to death. What kind of certificate do you want? A certificate to enter the city, right? Tell me your name, age, and illness. 5 silver coins for a certificate. It will take effect on the same day." Chapter 70. Since she had come to the Jade capital and this was also the hometown of her father, Yun Songhai, Yun Xing planned to settle down first. However, if she wanted to settle down first, she would need to obtain a doctor's certificate. However, this doctor in front of her almost starved her to death. This kind of person was definitely unreliable. Furthermore, a certificate required 5 silver coins? This was too much of a scam. Yun Xing didn't say anything else and turned to leave. "Hey young lady, don't go. How about I give you a discount? 4.5 silver coins?" The lean man saw that the meal ticket that he had painstakingly delivered to his door flew away and became anxious. This is considered the lowest price in the entire city. If you go to other medical centers, you won't even be able to enter. Yun Xing stopped in her tracks. The Jade capital was under the feet of the emperor, and every inch of land was worth its weight in gold. Those who could open medical centers in the city weren't ordinary people, and the price of treatment was even more imaginable. Yun Xing's clothes were tattered, and the money she had on her was mostly spent because of Yun Songhai's coma. She could still take out 5 silver coins, but if it was other medical centers she would probably be immediately chased out of the door. "Don't doubt me. I dare to guarantee with my qualifications as Dr. Ling that once you step out of this door, there won't be such a shop anymore." Afraid that Yun Xing wouldn't believe him, the man took out a token and handed it to Yun Xing. That token was similar to the Imperial Physician token that Yun Xing had seen in Taishang town. However, it wasn't golden in color. Instead, it was made of purple iron and had a bell engraved on it. Dr. Ling referred to those who had obtained the primary certification of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion and had the qualifications to practice medicine and refine medicine. They were doctors who could practice medicine in a town and help the world. The ranks of doctors in the boundless continent. Herb gathering boy, medicine man, medicine master, Dr. Ling, Dr. Ling, Dr. Ling, Dr. Ling, Dr. Ling. This doctor in front of her was actually a famous doctor? 4.5 silver coins is still too expensive. Yun Xing frowned and bargained. "It's not expensive. What if I tell you that for 4.5 silver coins, not only can I issue a certificate, I can also help you keep your unconscious relative alive without using any medicine?" As soon as the man's voice fell, Yun Xing suddenly turned around and looked at him with a guarded expression. "How did you know that I have a family member who is unconscious and needs to be kept alive with ginseng medicine?" Yun Xing was a cautious person. Moreover, she had been ridiculed by the general's mansion. After entering the medical center, she did not mention a word about her father's condition. "I can smell at least 3 or 4 different kinds of herbs on your body, all of which are precious herbs. But you're dressed simply. You don't come from a wealthy family. Since that's the case, you must have a family member who is seriously ill and unconscious. That's why you have no choice but to use precious herbs to save your life. Am I right?" The man's face was full of confidence. With his nose, he could distinguish the different smells of various herbs even in the Imperial Palace's medicine storehouse. 4.5 silver coins deal. But you have to tell me first. What method can replace herbs? Yun Xing had just arrived in the Jade capital. If she wanted to settle down and rent a house, she would definitely need to spend a lot of money. She was already out of money and had to think of a way to earn money quickly. Water element magic formation, cloud dream ice slumber. After the man finished speaking, a magic scepter the size of a chopstick appeared in his hand as he chanted. A blue magic formation flowed with blue clouds and mist. The clouds and mist were incomparably cold and instantly froze a table and chair at the side. A person who was in the state of cloud dream ice slumber would have all of their bodily functions reduced to the lowest level. Correspondingly, the loss of life would also be reduced to the lowest level. It was equivalent to 1% of the time when they were unconscious. As such, they would naturally be rid of their dependence on herbs. You're also a magician? Then how did you become one? What made Yun Xing even more astonished was that this Ling doctor was actually a magician. Since he was both a healer and a magician, how did he end up in such dire straits that he almost starved to death in his own medical center? It's precisely because I'm both a magician and a healer that I ended up in such a state. Ancient medicine and magic apothecaries have been incompatible all these years. People like me can't stand on either side. There's no time to lose. I'll go with you to the city gate to take a look. The man revealed a helpless expression. He found his medicine box and walked towards the city gate with Yun Sheng. When Yun Sheng returned, it was already close to dusk. Xiao He was still waiting beside the carriage. "It's you again, Dr. Fan?" The city guards were clearly very familiar with this man. In fact, most of the commoners who needed to obtain a certificate to enter the Jade Capital were issued by Dr. Fan because of the price. Thus, the city guards recognized him at a glance. "Little girl, be careful. This person isn't honest and has even killed someone before. He's known as the Ghost Doctor. If you're looking for a certificate from him, don't let him treat you." A kind city guard reminded Yun Sheng. Dr. Fan acted as if he didn't hear anything. He pulled open the curtain of the carriage and looked inside. Although he guessed that Yun Sheng had an unconscious relative, he didn't know what illness the other party had. Before he could issue a certificate, he had to look at the condition first. After looking inside, Dr. Fan frowned. "What's wrong? Is it an epidemic?" A city guard at the side asked. "No, let him in." Dr. Fan looked at Yun Sheng thoughtfully. He took out a certificate that he had written long ago and signed it before handing it to the city guard. Once he received the certificate, the city guard let Yun Sheng and the carriage enter the city. As dusk approached, the ground was covered in the afterglow of the setting sun. Yun Sheng held onto the reins of the horse and stood on the street with Xiao He, looking very lonely. "Little girl, find a place to stay first. If you want to cast Dream Cloud Eye Sleep for your father, you have to give me 5 silver coins. But let me tell you, one Dream Cloud Eye Sleep can only last for half a month." Dr. Fan was very calculative. He had already calculated that Yun Sheng didn't know water magic. If she wanted to find someone to cast Dream Cloud Eye Sleep, she could only look for him. "I have nowhere to go. The inns in the city are very expensive. We can't afford to stay there." Yun Sheng looked at the Jade Capital in the dusk and frowned. The capital was bustling, but in the bustling crowd, everyone's face was cold. Only she could protect her father. "Behind my medical center, there are 2 empty rooms, but the rent is 10 silver coins a month." Dr. Fan could see that Yun Sheng didn't have much money, but he wasn't a good person. He wouldn't do something that would cost him money. "I owe you a total of 20 silver coins. I can be a herbalist in the medical center and use my salary to pay for the rent and the cost of Dream Cloud Eye Sleep," Yun Sheng immediately said. Although the city guard didn't have a high evaluation of Dr. Fan, a doctor who could guess her father's condition just by seeing him once was definitely not as useless as the rumors said. A herbalist's salary is only 5 silver coins at most. Dr. Fan shook his head. "In your medical center, do you have fresh hemostatic flowers, moon crow fruit, or withered butterfly vines? As long as I have these 3 herbs, I will definitely be able to raise the remaining 15 silver coins before the end of this month." Although Yun Sheng was young, her words had a natural deterrent force. Dr. Fan couldn't help but believe her words. "Okay, 1 month. If you can't raise the money in 1 month, don't blame me for kicking you, your father, and your dog out of the door." Dr. Fan nodded and led Yun Sheng to the medical center. Chapter 71. After returning to the medical center, Yun Sheng noticed that there was a courtyard behind the small medical center. The courtyard wasn't big. There was a well, a few acres of barren medicinal fields, and a few rooms. One of them was Dr. Fan's own room, one was the pharmacy, and one was the kitchen. The remaining 2 rooms were empty. Yun Sheng tidied up and settled her father Yun Songhai in Chaoyang's room. The remaining room was her and Xiao Hei's nest. Including the cost of sleeping with Yun Meng twice, the total is 20 silver coins. "This is the IOU. Remember to hand over the money at the end of the month. Also, the herb gatherers here will take care of your 3 meals, but the money for your dog's meals isn't included. You get up at 6 o'clock every day, tidy up the medicinal herbs in the medical center, cut the herbs and dry them. You have half an hour of rest at noon. At 6 o'clock in the evening, the medical center closes. You can't be lazy. If I catch you, I will deduct your money." Dr. Fan is a very cost-effective person. He won't let Yun Sheng take advantage of him. Yun Sheng saw that the medical center didn't have much business, but to her surprise, she found that the medical center's pharmacy was very complete. There were even a lot of seeds. After asking, she found out that Dr. Fan usually went out to pick herbs when he had nothing to do. Some of the seeds he collected were casually thrown in the pharmacy. "Dr. Fan, when I was in my hometown, my family also had a few acres of medicinal fields. Can you lend me some of the seeds in the storehouse? I will plant them in the medicinal field. If the herbs mature, we will split the harvest 50-50. Yun Sheng saw that the medicinal field was abandoned and felt that it was a pity. She simply suggested that she take care of the medicinal field. Dr. Fan was skeptical. He thought that the seeds in the pharmacy would become moldy. If Yunsheng could really grow something, it would be good. The next morning, when the rooster crowed at 4 o'clock, Yunsheng got up and meditated. For a magician, the best time to meditate was at dawn and dusk. After meditating for a while, Yunsheng felt refreshed. She went out of the room and went to Yun Songhai's room to take a look. A blue magic array flickered with an icy blue light. Inside the magic array, his father, Yun Songhai, was covered in a layer of icy blue ice. Father Shinger will find a way to save you one day, Yunsheng swore in her heart. She prepared breakfast as usual. Then he loosened the soil of the medicinal field and planted the selected seeds before daybreak. Not to mention Dr. Fan's medical skills, but his eyesight for herbs was very good. The seeds of the herbs he collected were all middle-grade herbs. On the boundless continent, medicinal herbs were divided into the most common types: low-grade, mid-grade, high-grade, and supreme-grade. For example, the hemostasis flower from Banana Leaf Village was the most common type. It was cheap and could only be made into ordinary low-grade medicine. Middle-grade herbs were much more expensive than ordinary herbs. They could also be made into mid-grade medicine. After making the hemostasis medicine and meditation water, Yunsheng already had a certain level of ability to make medicine. She planned to wait until the mid-grade herbs were successfully planted before starting to develop them. In her previous life, Yunsheng's parents died early and her grandfather was busy with the small clinic all year round, so her ability to take care of herself had always been good. She stayed in Yujing partly because of Yun Songhai's illness. Another reason was that she wanted to enter the Magic Academy in Yujing City. Although Yunsheng had a 5-elemental spirit, Yun Songhai didn't have time to teach her basic magic before he became a vegetable. She wanted to enter the Magic Academy to obtain more opportunities to learn basic magic and become a real magician. That would require a lot of tuition fees and living expenses, so Yunsheng had to earn more money. Dr. Fan woke up early in the morning. As soon as he stepped out of his room, he smelled the aroma of food. Looking at the courtyard, he saw that it was neat and tidy. Some cut herbs were neatly placed under the sun. Ha, this little girl is very nimble. Unfortunately, no matter how nimble she is, she won't be able to save her father. The beast blood curse of the Zhao state. Dr. Fan walked into the clinic with his hands behind his back, deep in thought. On this day, not a single patient came. Dr. Fan spent most of his time napping on the counter. Around noon, Yunsheng had half an hour of free time. She notified Dr. Fan and left the clinic. She ran towards the busiest street in the city and shuttled through the streets of Yujing City. The sun was shining brightly. Yunsheng ran all the way here, her face bright red from the sun. These hemostasis medicine were made by Yunsheng when she was in Banana Leaf Village. The 3 bottles of qi-gathering elixir and meditation water were also made on the way here. Yunsheng planned to sell these finished medicines to raise some money. Seeing that there was not much time left, Yunsheng could only pick up the medicine bottles and choose a clinic on the northernmost side of the street. Sell medicine. Are you qualified to be a medicine man? The doctor at the clinic saw that Yunsheng was just a little girl and couldn't help but be suspicious. I was a herbalist at the Dharma Temple. These medicines were all taught to me by the local pharmacist. Yunsheng presented a bottle of hemostasis medicine expectantly. The pharmacist took the bottle and sniffed it. His expression changed slightly, but he didn't show it on his face. This hemostasis medicine is too inferior. I can accept it, but it's at most 5 copper coins. Yunsheng's face turned red. She took back the bottles of medicine. I'm not selling. She would rather not sell it than allow others to trample on her medicine. Her lunch break was only half an hour, and she had spent some time rushing over. She really didn't have much time left. Yunsheng hugged the medicine bottles and walked on the street. She noticed a few rouge and powder scouts in the corner of the street, and the peddlers were shouting from time to time. She had initially wanted to sell the medicine to the clinic, but now it seemed that the bigger the shop, the more unscrupulous it was. Yunsheng no longer trusted clinics and pharmacies. She might as well set up a mobile medicine stall and sell it for as much money as she could. After making up her mind, Yunsheng picked a clean and cool piece of land and took out the hemostasis medicine and the 3 bottles of meditation water. Yunsheng's hemostasis medicine was priced at 9 copper coins, the qi-gathering elixir at 15 copper coins, and the meditation water at 20 copper coins. These prices were much cheaper than the market price. This street was the busiest in the Jade capital. There were many people passing by, and there was no lack of practitioners and magicians. Yunsheng was young and not a physician. Occasionally, a few passers-by would pass by, but when they heard that she was selling medicine, they would shake their heads and walk away. After waiting for about 15 minutes, an unusually slender woman walked in front of him. "Sister, do you want to buy medicine?" Yun Sheng stopped the woman. The corner of the woman's mouth twitched. She turned around and scolded, "Who said I'm a woman? Which eye of yours saw that I'm a woman?" Chapter 72. All the hunters in Jade Capital knew that the C-grade bounty hunter Wenren Chiu hated being mistaken for a woman the most. He was a real man, a real man. However, he had an oval face that was more attractive than a woman's. His facial features were as clear as a painting, and his skin was fair and transparent as if water could be squeezed out with a pinch. It was said that it was because he was too beautiful that he once went to the largest brothel in the city to have fun with a few hunting soldiers. He was treated as the top courtesan of the brothel by a third-rank official who was so drunk that his eyes were bleary. That third-grade official was also drunk and superstitious, and he shouted that he wanted to redeem his freedom. When Wenren Chiu heard that, he went berserk on the spot. He skinned that third-grade official and hung him at the entrance of the brothel. He even cut off all the protruding parts of his body. This matter was blown out of proportion, and the whole Jade Capital knew about it. That third-grade official's family wanted to take revenge, but after asking around they found out that Wenren Chiu was the younger brother of imperial concubine Wenren, who was favored by the emperor of Zhou State. He was also a C-grade bounty hunter of Zhou State's Hunters Guild, so the matter was left unsettled. Since then, no one in Jade Capital dared to say that he looked like a woman in front of Wenren Chiu. People called him Wenren Yiksha behind his back. Who knew that Wenren Chiu would be stopped by Yun Sheng when she was walking on the street? Yun Sheng was also shocked. When she looked carefully, she saw an obvious Adam's apple on the person's neck. She complained in her heart that the sun was too strong. It was all Yun Sheng's fault. It was really a big misunderstanding. Wenren Chiu was about to chop the guy who called him sister into pieces when he saw a little girl standing not far away. The little girl was small and had a pair of black eyes. She was looking at him pitifully. "Little thing, were you calling me just now?" Wenren Chiu looked like a pretty little girl and she was very likable. When she smiled, there were 2 little dimples on her cheeks. The little girl squatted at the corner of the street. Under the sun, she looked very pitiful. Wenren Chiu's expression softened, and he put away his yiksha face. "Little thing. Damn it, I used to be called a little wild cat and now you're calling me a little thing. I'm older than you, alright." Yun Sheng's heart exploded, but she still looked harmless and obedient on the surface. "Good-looking big brother, from your appearance you must be a very powerful hunter, right? Do you want to take a look at my hemostatic agent? It's very affordable, only 9 copper coins." Yun Sheng's words made Wenren Chiu feel very comfortable. Wasn't she referring to him when she said that he was a very powerful hunter? "Little girl, your mouth is really sweet. However, your big brother only uses high-grade goods. The hemostatic agents that I usually use are specially provided by the Imperial Medicine Pavilion. As for your hemostatic agent..." Wenren Chiu saw Yun Sheng's face fall and couldn't bear to see her like this. He casually picked up a bottle of hemostatic agent. As soon as the smell of the hemostat wafted out, Wenren Chiu let out a soft cry of surprise. The quality of this hemostatic medicine wasn't bad, and it wasn't too far off from the Medicine Emperor Pavilion's Hemostatic Emperor. A bottle of Hemostasis Emperor cost 3 silver coins. His name was Wenren Chiu, not Wendato. "Wait a minute, are these bottles of meditation water? I'll buy them all. How much are they?" "You calculate." Wenren Chiu was very casual and didn't pay attention to the production of medicine like the average person. He felt that Yun Sheng's hemostatic agent was good, so her other medicines must be good as well. He might as well buy them all at once. Yun Sheng's hemostatic agent, meditation water, and qi-gathering elixir were sold for a total of 6 silver coins. Seeing that Yun Sheng was about to leave, Wenren Chiu stopped her. "My name is Wenren Chiu. In the future you don't have to sell your medicine on the streets. There are too many people around here. In the future if you have medicine, send it to the Wenren residence in Changlin Alley. If I'm not around, just give my name and give the medicine to the housekeeper." Yun Sheng hurriedly nodded. Seeing that it was getting late, she hurriedly ran to the medical hall. Wenren Chiu took the meditation water and walked into a restaurant not far away. He had invited a few hunters to drink in the restaurant. As soon as he entered the restaurant, he heard a high-pitched voice call out, "Big sister, do you want to buy medicine?" When Wenren Chiu heard that, he clenched his fists without hesitation. Crackling sounds like beans popping could be heard from his fists. "Honorable hunters, Please do us a favor and don't fight in the restaurant." When the restaurant's manager heard that, he was so frightened that he hurriedly lay on the ground. Wenren didn't become a C-rank mercenary by relying on his looks. His own strength was not a problem and he was already a martial venerable. He threw a punch at the person who had spoken. That person was already prepared, and the snake-shaped magic scepter in his hand buzzed. Mid-level magic marsh technique. The ground under Wenren feet immediately turned into a muddy marsh. Pairs of muddy hands reached out from the marsh and grabbed Wenren legs. Wenren beautiful face was full of disgust as she shouted at the female magician opposite her. "Tomboy, is your brain soaked in water? Why don't you take a look at yourself? You're old enough to be my great-grandmother. How dare you imitate a little girl and call me big sister? Disgusting." Unlike Wenren, the female magician was uncouth and roughly the same height as Wenren. When she heard Wenren words, she was so angry that her eyes almost popped out. "Wenren, I'm only a month older than you. What do you mean by old enough to be your great-grandmother?" "Enough. Wenren, Nanyan, the two of you have to fight every time you meet. We're all in the same hunting team. Sit down and discuss the assessment of the hunting team." With a roar, several purple lightning flashes drilled out from the ceiling of the restaurant. With two rumbling sounds, the lightning flashes exploded in front of Wenren and the magician one after another. The two of them stepped back and glared at each other in dissatisfaction. The one who spoke was a big man with a dignified appearance. He was 2 meters tall and his whole body was covered with muscles. The most terrifying thing was that he had a magic scepter on his waist. Feng Kuo, a dual cultivator of magic and martial arts, a C-rank hunter. He was a warrior at the peak of revered martial artist and a magician at the level of lightning master magician. He was also the captain of the Soaring Phoenix hunting team. He picked up Wenren and Mu Nanyan and threw them on their seats. The two of them looked like obedient babies as they sat there without uttering a word. Wenren smiled. "Boss, don't be angry. Look, I bought a few bottles of good stuff. I can guarantee that compared to the Medicine Emperor Pavilion's meditation water, the effect is much better. Keep bragging. Who doesn't know that the Medicine Emperor Pavilion's meditation water is the best quality in the continent? You dare to buy medicine from a 6 or 7-year-old girl? Wenren, your brain must have been kicked by a mule." Mu Nanyan couldn't help but mock. She snatched the bottle of meditation water and drank it in one gulp. The magic spell just now had consumed a portion of her magic power. She could use the meditation water to replenish her magic power. Chapter 73. Feng Kuo, Wenren, and Mu Nanyan were members of the Soaring Phoenix hunting team, which was rather famous in the Jade Capital's bounty industry. The three of them were cultivators of both magic and martial arts, martial artists and magicians. Wenren was good at attacking, Mu Baiyan's earth element magic was good at defending, and Feng Kuo was good at both attacking and defending. The three of them had been in the team for 5 years, but Wenren and Mu Baiyan had always disliked each other. If it wasn't for Feng Kuo's suppression, the two of them would have fought to the death. Mu Nanyan drank a mouthful of the meditation water and raised her eyebrows. "You tomboy, don't drink it all in one gulp. Letting you drink it is like a cow eating peonies. It's a reckless waste of natural resources," Wenren scolded. "Boss, this meditation water." Mu Nanyan smacked her lips and felt a vigorous surge of magic power in her stomach. It was like a raging wave that spread out in an instant. She couldn't help but be stunned. "Is there a problem with the potion?" Wenren was also a little uncertain. She was a martial artist and didn't know much about meditation water. Feng Kuo, who was about to teach the two of them a lesson, also took a bottle of meditation water and drank a mouthful. To a magician, meditation water was sometimes a lifesaver. For example, bounty hunters who lived on the edge of a knife's edge would sometimes lose their lives if they recovered 10% of their mana in the face of magical beasts. After Feng Kuo tried it, his eyes shone brightly and he couldn't help but exclaim, "An improved version of meditation water." "Yes, boss, you've noticed it too. The taste is similar to the one in the Medicine Emperor Pavilion, but the effect is very shocking. It should be some kind of improved meditation water." Mu Baiyan no longer had the mood to argue with Wenren. She was an earth element magician, and when she drank the meditation water, her earth element recovered 50% faster than usual. That meant that when facing a magician of the same level, as long as she had this meditation water, she would be invincible. Where did that little girl come from? How much improved meditation water does she have? We'll buy all of it. Feng Kuo realized that the maker of this meditation water did not know the value of the potion itself. Wenren Xiu bought all of the finished products in one go, so Yun Xing gave her the best price. After conversion, a bottle of meditation water was only worth 1.5 silver coins. One had to know that in the Medicine Emperor Pavilion, a bottle of ordinary meditation water cost 5 silver coins. In Feng Kuo and Mu Nanyan's eyes, this kind of improved meditation water was even sold for 1 gold coin. I don't know. Wenren Xiu was confused by the two of them. He had only done a good deed that day and bought that little thing's medicine. Who would have thought that her medicine would be so good? We'll continue to wait here tomorrow. If she comes out to buy medicine, we'll buy all of it. It's best to inquire about who made the medicine. Whether it was Mu Nanyan or Feng Kuo, they all took it for granted that Yun Sheng was helping her elders set up a stall to sell medicine. A few drops of cold sweat appeared on Wenren Xiu's forehead. He said weakly, I saw that she was still young, so I told her not to set up a stall in the future. 2 hostile gazes immediately swept over. However, I also told her to send the finished products to my house as soon as she has them. What if she doesn't send them? Mu Nanyan wanted to strangle Wenren Xiu. She should send them, she definitely will. The more Wenren Xiu said, the more guilty he felt. He was not very sure. If that little thing did not know the way, or if she found other sellers, then this improved meditation water would be gone. It was just that in such a big jade capital, finding a nameless little girl was a bit too difficult. Fine, we'll wait. I called you here today for the bounty hunter assessment. We've been stuck at the C-rank bounty hunter level for a long time. According to our experience and the total amount of bounty we've accumulated over the years, we should have been promoted to B rank long ago. Feng Kuo, Wenren Xiu and Mu Nanyan were all from Jade Capital. Although the 3 of them were bounty hunters, each of their families was famous in Jade Capital. The 3 of them were from the same generation. Because of their ancestors, they had been playmates since they were young. 5 years ago, because of Feng Kuo's suggestion, they formed Huang Teng. The 3 of them were quite strong, and with their tacit cooperation, they could be considered to have a little reputation in the bounty hunting world. However, the bounty mercenary level had been stuck at C rank. For the 3 of them who were proud and arrogant, this had always been a sore point. After all, only bounty hunters above B rank could accept cross-country bounty missions. Our strength has been enough for B rank for a long time, but we haven't found a suitable summoner. Wenren Xiu drank a mouthful of wine gloomily. Unlike those insignificant hunters, there had to be at least 1 warrior, 1 mage and 1 summoner in order to become a B-level bounty hunter team. There had to be at least 1 warrior, 1 mage and 1 summoner in the team. This hard condition was set by the 3 SSS rank hunters who had founded the Hunters Guild. At the same time, it was also set by the legendary Divine Edge Hunter team on the mainland. All the hunters on the mainland had to abide by it. Moreover, the hunter team that met the condition had to challenge a B-rank hunter team. If the challenge was successful, then they could be promoted. It's easier said than done to find a summoner. Look, in the past few years, the summoners who passed the assessment at the Jade Capital Summoning Center were snatched away before they could leave the summoning center. In 10 years, there were no more than 20 summoners from the Jade Capital Summoning Center. Those people lived like princes. Who would be willing to be a bounty hunter? Zhou State's national fate has withered. Among the warriors, there were no more warriors like old General Yun. The other 4 countries have many talents. Among them, Penglai has the most summoners. So now, among the big countries, Penglai has the most B-rank hunter teams. Mu Nanyan couldn't help but sigh. They became bounty hunters not because they were greedy for money, but because they wanted to pursue the adventure missions that only bounty hunters could come in contact with. However, the members of a bounty hunter team must be absolutely trustworthy. Otherwise, in the face of a life and death crisis, the betrayal of a member was enough to cause the collapse of the whole team. Summoners could summon beasts, and the consumption of magic elements was less than magic. Under the same conditions, having a summoner was equivalent to having 2 members. Therefore, even if the B-rank hunter team's assessment condition was removed, their chances of winning against a B-rank hunter team were almost 0. In the past 10 years, there was not a single C-rank hunter team that successfully challenged a B-rank hunter team. Let's wait and see. Let's search for a while more. In the next 1 or 2 years, we should also pay attention to the improvement of our own cultivation. Feng Kuo's words were met with the unanimous agreement of Wenren Xiu and Mu Nanyan. Just as Huang Teng was anxious to find a summoner, Yun Sheng was still repeating the work of a herbalist in the medical hall every day. The herb field that she planted finally sprouted after a few days of careful care, including a batch of moonlight grass that she brought from Banana Leaf Village. Yun Sheng also refined more than 10 bottles of qi-gathering elixir and 5 bottles of meditation water in her 1 month of free time. She planned to visit Wenren Xiu to sell the elixir, but she didn't expect that something would suddenly happen and interrupt her plan. Chapter 74. The ins and outs of the matter had to be explained from the medical center. After 10 days, Yun Sheng also discovered the main source of income for the Little Rejuvenation Clinic. In this clinic, other than issuing all kinds of fraudulent certificates, another important source of income was to help the neighbors grab and decoct medicine to treat some minor ailments such as headaches, fevers, and diarrhea. They didn't even come across a single difficult and complicated illness. There was once when Dr. Fan accidentally discovered that Yun Sheng could treat patients, and he handed all these matters over to Yun Sheng. Very quickly the neighbors became familiar with Yun Sheng. They all liked this young girl who was very knowledgeable about medicine. Dr. Fan even encouraged Yun Sheng to participate in the examination of medicine men. The so-called medicine men were high-grade herb gatherers who were in charge of tasting, decocting, and dispensing medicine. Generally, in a medium-sized clinic, there would be a medicine man. On the boundless continent, being a doctor was also a very popular occupation. However, in order to become a doctor or a doctor like Dr. Fan, one had to pass the examination of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. This wasn't the first time Yun Sheng heard the name of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. She remembered that during the hemostatic medicine incident in Banana Leaf Village, the village head's grandfather had mentioned the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. Hearing Yun Sheng asking about the Medicine Emperor Pavilion, Dr. Fan couldn't help but fall into a daze for a moment. After a long time he replied, "Those who study the ancient medical arts would all know of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. For the magician examination, there's a Dharma temple. For the martial artist examination, there's a summoner examination. For the summoner examination, there's a summoner examination." The Medicine Emperor Pavilion was the continent's largest ancient medicine organization. Its branches were like a huge tree that reached the sky, and its branches, leaves and veins covered the entire continent. The Medicine Emperor Pavilion was outstanding because not only was it the most authoritative organization for doctors in the continent, it also controlled the continent's most precious medicinal herbs and the most outstanding doctors. Some people say that the most powerful people in the continent are magicians, some say martial artists, and some even say summoners. However, I believe that the most powerful people in the continent are doctors because they can control the life and death of others. Yun Sheng, if you want to find a way to cure your father's illness, there's a place you have to go no matter what. That place is the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. When Dr. Fan mentioned the Medicine Emperor Pavilion, a complicated expression flashed in his eyes. Yun Sheng decided to participate in the Medicine Man examination. With her medical foundation from her previous life, as well as the medicine encyclopedia left behind by the Yun family and the Qi Min medicine encyclopedia that she had memorized, Yun Sheng believed that it wouldn't be difficult for her to pass the Medicine Man examination. After observing Yun Sheng for a period of time, Dr. Fan also had a good foundation of Yun Sheng's herbal medicine. After the two of them discussed for a while, they decided that Dr. Fan would bring Yun Sheng to Medicine Emperor Pavilion in Jade Capital the next day to take the test. The next morning Yun Sheng planned to change into the herb-picking clothes she wore in Banana Leaf Village, but she found that she had grown taller in the past few months. Seeing this, Dr. Fan took out a set of clean herb-picking clothes and said, "This is the herb-picking clothes that my daughter wore in her early years. It's about the same size as yours so you can change into it." Only then did Yun Sheng know that Dr. Fan was someone who had been married before. Now that he was all alone, she didn't know where his family had gone. After changing into the clothes, Yun Sheng followed Dr. Fan to the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. The Medicine Emperor Pavilion was indeed worthy of being the continent's largest medical institution. Looking from afar, one could only see a majestic pavilion standing on the street. From time to time, there would be farmers and patients entering and leaving the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. The entire Medicine Emperor Pavilion was divided into 7 floors, and each floor was 10 times the size of a small clinic. As soon as Yun Sheng and Dr. Fan entered the door, they smelled a faint fragrance. At the main entrance, there was a pure gold cauldron that was emitting a fragrance. Smelling this fragrance, Yun Sheng's mind unconsciously cleared up. A person who looked like a pharmacist came forward and inquired about the purpose of their visit. After hearing that Dr. Fan had brought Yun Sheng to participate in the herb-picking test, the pharmacist led Yun Sheng into the pavilion. The first floor of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion sold all kinds of herbs, The second floor sold finished medicines. The third floor was for those below the rank of pharmacist, and the fourth floor was for those above the rank of pharmacist. Before Dr. Fan left, he had already told Yun Sheng that the herb-picking test was divided into 3 steps. If there were no accidents, the test would be divided into 3 steps: picking up herbs, decocting herbs, and identifying herbs. These steps were also the main procedures to test whether a herb-picking test was qualified or not. Walking up the stairs to the 3rd floor, they saw that in the spacious examination room on the 3rd floor, there were already several herb-picking apprentices and doctors waiting. One of them saw Dr. Fan at a glance. With a mocking smile, he blocked Dr. Fan and Yun Sheng's path. Dr. Fan seemed to have already known this person. Without any expression, he said, "A good dog doesn't block the road. Fanji, you have big guts, you actually dare to insult this doctor. Let me tell you, just last month this doctor passed the test of the 4-direction scattered doctor. Soon, I will receive the appointment of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion and head to the southern city to take up the position of Pavilion Master. Do you think you are still the Imperial Physician Fan from back then? Right now, you are just a Ling doctor who has problems making a living." After being scolded by Dr. Fan, that person's face turned red and he pushed Dr. Fan away. Imperial Physician. Dr. Fan was originally an Imperial Physician? Yun Sheng found it hard to imagine that a dignified Imperial Physician would be cooped up in a small clinic. Dr. Fan's expression changed slightly and he couldn't help but grip his magic wand. "Fanji, Ching Sihai, do you want to cause trouble here? Noise is not allowed in the Medicine Emperor Pavilion." At this time, a woman gracefully walked over. The woman's appearance was elegant and beautiful. She was dressed in a doctor's robe. There was a waist token hanging from her waist. Yun Sheng recognized that the jade token was the same as the fake Imperial Physician token that Night Fox had taken out when she was in Taishang Town. This elegant woman was an Imperial Physician. As soon as she appeared, Cheng Sihai, who had just provoked her, immediately showed an infatuated expression. The medical apprentices present also immediately felt deep veneration. They respectfully shouted together with the pharmacists present, "Imperial Physician Yao." Dr. Fan's hand that was holding the magic wand loosened. His expression was gloomy. "Yao Rong, I am not here to cause trouble. I am here to bring this child to participate in the examination." Dr. Fan did not look directly at the woman. "Examination? Aha, Fanji, with your shabby clinic, you still need an Imperial Physician?" The scattered doctor looked at Yun Sheng with disdain. He saw that Yun Sheng's age was at most 6 or 7 years old. At this age, if she did not practice medicine since elementary school, how could she pass the examination of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion? This scattered doctor was called Cheng Sihai. He was originally from the same school as Fanji and Yao Rong, but his talent was much worse than the two. For many years he had been in love with Yao Rong and had always been jealous of Fanji. Today, his nephew, who was also one of his apprentices, came to participate in the examination. Therefore he bumped into Dr. Fan. Imperial Physician Rong did not say a word. She looked at Yun Sheng's clothes and her eyes darkened. She sternly said, "Bring this child up. Fanji, Dr. Cheng, you are not allowed to enter." "Dr. Fan, I can go up by myself. I will definitely become an Imperial Physician." Yun Sheng deliberately said loudly. At the same time she glared at the scattered doctor. Cheng Sihai secretly said in his heart, "To become an Imperial Physician, humph, it is not that simple." Chapter 75. The Medicine Emperor Pavilion lived up to its reputation as the medical examiner of the boundless continent. When Yun Sheng entered the examination room with the other herb gatherers, she discovered that there were already several dozen herb gatherers standing in the examination room. Some of them had already participated in the examination multiple times. Yun Sheng's sharp eyes noticed that although they were all herb gatherers at a glance, she could see that they were divided into different grades and ranks. Some people's clothes were obviously more exquisite, and most of the people here seemed to know each other. Cheng Sihai's herb gatherer, Ching Qing, knew quite a few of them. The moment he entered the examination room, he greeted the few people he was familiar with and even discussed the contents of today's examination. It seemed that most of the herb gatherers here were acquainted with each other. "She's the herb gatherer of that magic Dr. Fanji." Ching Qing pointed at Yun Sheng maliciously. He thought that Yun Sheng couldn't hear what he was saying. But ever since Yun Sheng unblocked her second extraordinary tendon, her 5 senses had become more sensitive. Everything that these people said behind her back all fell into her ears. Isn't Fanji that doctor who once killed someone? I heard that he actually tore open a person's chest. A few herb gatherers who were on good terms with Fanji clicked their tongues when they heard his name. Everyone spontaneously distanced themselves from Yun Sheng, as if Yun Sheng was some kind of filth. Yun Sheng didn't mind. She couldn't be bothered to bicker with this bunch of kids. A herb gatherer walked in. He was the chief examiner of today's examination in the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. Silence, I'm your chief examiner today. You can call me Herb Gatherer Kong. Most of you here are herb gatherers of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion, so I believe that you're not unfamiliar with the examination. Today there are a total of 43 people participating in the examination. I hope that all of you will be able to become qualified herb gatherers. Our first round of examination is to grab medicinal herbs. Everyone follow me to the first floor. Herb Gatherer Kong led dozens of herb gatherers to the medicine storehouse on the first floor. So big. Yun Sheng followed the herb gathering boys to the storehouse of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. The medicinal storehouse of the Medicine Sovereign Pavilion was like a gigantic underground parking lot. There were over 10,000 types of medicinal herbs here, and they were all neatly separated into different areas. For example, low-grade, mid-grade, and high-grade medicinal herbs. Yun Sheng's shocked expression fell into the eyes of the other herb gatherers, and they couldn't help but laugh at her. When you entered the storehouse, each of you received a prescription. There were a total of 18 types of herbs in the prescription. In the first round of the assessment, you are not allowed to use the scale to grab 18 different types of herbs. Those who accurately grasped 18 to 15 types of herbs will be considered excellent. Those who accurately grasped 14 to 10 types of herbs will be considered average. Those who accurately grasped 9 to 6 types of herbs will be considered qualified. Those who accurately grasped less than 6 types of herbs will be considered unqualified. After hearing the content of the test, the herb gathering boys immediately looked at the prescription in their hands. Medicine men were different from herb gatherers. Gathering herbs was one of their main jobs. In the Medicine Sovereign Pavilion, there were hundreds of thousands of prescriptions coming in and out every day. Qualified medicine men didn't have the time to use the scale to grab the herbs. They were usually able to estimate the correct amount of herbs in one go. Only then would they be able to properly decoct the herbs later on. Cheng Qing quickly grabbed the 18 types of herbs and passed them to the pharmacist proudly. After the pharmacist checked the prescription, he announced, Cheng Qing, among the 18 types of herbs, you accurately grasped 16 types of herbs. In the first round you scored excellent. Out of the 18 types of herbs, Cheng Qing was actually able to accurately grasp 16 types of herbs without using the scale. The other herb gatherers were incomparably shocked. They praised Cheng Qing for being the herb gathering boy of the scattered physician Cheng Sihai. A few more herb gatherers passed the assessment. Among them, there were 2 who didn't reach the minimum requirement of 6 types of herbs and were eliminated in the first round. Yun Sheng passed the prescription she had grabbed over. Pharmacist Kong glanced at her and realized that she was an unfamiliar face. Yun Sheng, among the 18 types of herbs, you accurately grasped 18 types of herbs. Test results, excellent. Even Pharmacist Kong himself could not believe his own eyes when he announced the results. Needless to say, the others, including those who mocked Yun Sheng earlier, were all stunned. 18 types. Did you all hear that? That herb gathering boy actually grasped the correct amount of herbs for 18 types of herbs. There were many types of herbs in the Medicine Sovereign Pavilion. Not only were there fresh herbs that hadn't been dried, there were also semi-finished medicinal stones that had been ground into powder. There were also some herbs that were even in liquid form. However, Yun Sheng grasped all of the herbs accurately. Yun Sheng was secretly amused. What a joke. In her previous life, when she had just learned how to walk, she had been forced by her grandfather with a ruler every day to learn how to grasp herbs. With more than 20 years of experience, how could she lose to this group of young herb gatherers? When she grasped the herbs, she didn't lack in weight. She was as accurate as a universal scale. At the side, Cheng Qing's expression was very ugly. He stared at Yun Sheng's back view as he pulled one of the herb gatherers aside, and the 2 of them started to whisper. In the first round there were a total of 10 people who failed. Out of the 43 people, only 33 were left. The second round of assessment was to decoct the herbs. The location of the assessment was also on the first floor of the herb storehouse. However, this time, the herb gatherers had to decoct the herbs according to the prescription they were given. When the herbs were brought up, Yun Sheng frowned. There was something wrong with these herbs. The herbs used to decoct the herbs had been changed. Yun Sheng looked at the others' herbs and realized that compared to the others, not only were her herbs lesser, even the age of the herbs was wrong. Among them, the most important herb, Lu Wei Su, which was 5 years old, had been replaced by Lu Wei Su, which was 3 years old. Since the herbs were of the wrong age, the decoction was naturally wrong as well. Ching Ching and the other herb gatherers looked over sneakily. Yun Sheng immediately guessed that they were the culprits. When they saw that Yun Sheng didn't say a word and continued to decoct the herbs, the herb gatherers all smiled as if they had succeeded in their scheme. They would let her come out on top in the first round of assessment. Let's see how she would be able to decoct the decoction with the missing herbs. About half an hour later, all 33 herb gatherers had finished decocting their respective herbs. Cheng Qing sneaked a look at Yun Sheng's bowl. There was only half a bowl of herbs left in her bowl. The amount of herbs was obviously not enough. Needless to say, she would be eliminated. Just as Pharmacist Kong was about to check everyone's herbs, a young girl of about 13 or 14 years old walked in. "Miss Chi, why are you here?" Pharmacist Kong asked politely. The young girl had a graceful appearance and a sign with the words "Medicine Man" hung on her body. Logically speaking, Pharmacist Kong's status was higher than that Medicine Man Chi, and he shouldn't be so respectful towards her. However, Pharmacist Kong and the other herb gatherers all looked at her with reverence. This was because this young girl was the personal medicine man of the only national master in the Imperial Medicine Pavilion in the Jade Capital. Chapter 76. The Grand National Physician was a legendary physician who was a level higher than the Imperial Physician. That Grand National Physician who no longer made house calls had taught many Imperial physicians in his early years, and his status in the Medicine Emperor Pavilion was very high. In his later years he only brought along one herbalist to serve him. That herbalist was the female herbalist named Qi Fangfei in front of them. Therefore, even though Qi Fangfei was young and her status was only a herbalist, her status in the Medicine Emperor Pavilion was very high. Even in front of Yao Rong and the others she could still speak a few words. No wonder Medicine Master Kong had to be respectful when he saw her. "Are these the herbalists who came to participate in today's examination? I heard that you're going through the second round of examination. Let me see, how are the herbs you've brewed?" Qi Fangfei came to the Medicine Emperor Pavilion today to look for a medicinal herb and coincidentally heard that a new batch of herbalists had come to participate in the examination. Although her status in the Medicine Emperor Pavilion wasn't low, she was still a teenage girl with an innocent personality. Thinking of the examination that she had a headache over in her early years, she secretly snuck over. "Miss Chi, please take a look. These are all the herbs that have been brewed." Medicine Master Kong simply handed over the right to judge today to Qi Fangfei. Qi Fangfei looked at the bowl of herbs placed at the front. Just by looking at the color, she curled her lips. Not up to standard. It's obvious that it's not mature enough. That herbalist's expression changed and he left dejectedly. Qi Fangfei looked at a few more bowls of herbs and actually found problems with all of them. At this time she walked to a bowl of herbs and saw that it was empty. There wasn't a single drop of herbs in it. "Hey, this is really rare. Why didn't you brew the herbs?" Qi Fangfei suddenly saw the empty bowl. Looking again, the owner of the empty bowl was still a little girl. "Could it be that you don't know how to brew herbs?" "It's not that I don't know how to brew herbs, but my herbs are wrong. The quantity is too little and the age is too young. If I were to do it half-heartedly, not only would the herbs not be able to save people, it might even harm them." Yun Sheng said unhurriedly as she presented her portion of herbs to Qi Fangfei and Medicine Master Kong. Yun Sheng's actions scared Qing Qinghe and the few troublemakers into lowering their heads, not daring to make a sound. Qi Fangfei was taken aback. She couldn't help but recall the time when she had just become a medicine man. Once, due to the negligence of the medicine storehouse, she had mistakenly concocted a 10-year-old herb into an 8-year-old one. Although she had discovered it, she had thought that it was only a difference of 2 years. She believed that it wouldn't affect the efficacy of the medicine much, so she had carelessly concocted it. Who would have thought that when de Guichot checked the medicine, he flew into a rage and reprimanded, "You knew that the medicine was wrong but you still decocted it. How can you be considered a qualified medicine man?" After Medicine Master Kong examined the herbs, he found that the age of the herbs was indeed wrong. Qi Fangfei cast a glance at Ching Qing and the others who had a guilty conscience. Her voice abruptly changed and carried a warning tone. "Listen up, I don't care what happened today, but you must remember, as medicine men, you must not secretly switch the herbs. If any of you dare to harm your colleagues in the future, you will be removed from the medical profession forever." Those few medicine boys were so frightened that they trembled like sieves. Cheng Qing's face was also covered in dirt. After this round of assessment, there were another 13 medicine boys who failed. Although Yun Xing didn't concoct the medicine, she had relied on her quick wits to successfully pass the assessment. However, Qi Fangfei didn't leave. The assessment just now made her interested in Yun Xing. She also found out from Medicine Master Kong that Yun Xing had accurately picked out 18 different herbs in the first round of assessment. She wanted to see how Yun Xing would perform in the third round of assessment. The third round of assessment is to identify the herbs. When it came to the third round of assessment, the medicine boys' expressions were much more relaxed than before. Identifying the herbs may be difficult for ordinary people, but to these medicine boys, most of them had followed their respective medicine masters since young and often went in and out of the medicine storehouse of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. Other than a few rare and precious herbs, they could recognize most of the herbs. Medicine Master Kong naturally saw the changes in the medicine boy's expressions. He couldn't help but shake his head. However, the identification of the herbs this time is different from the previous years. The location of your assessment is not in the medicine storehouse. Follow me. If the identification of the herbs wasn't in the medicine storehouse, then where was it? Not only the herb gatherers, but even Qi Fangfei had a baffled look on her face. A group of people filed out and arrived at the main entrance of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. At this time, including Fan Zhi and Cheng Sihai, there were also some commoners who came to buy medicine and see a doctor at the main entrance. When they saw the group of medicine boys coming out, they all revealed an expression of watching a show. When Qi Fangfei walked past and saw Fan Zhi, she couldn't help but be startled. After hesitating for a moment, she still called out, "Eldest senior brother." It turned out that Fan Zhi, Yao Rong and Cheng Sihai had all been under the tutelage of that secluded national master. They could be considered as Qi Fangfei's senior brother. When Fan Zhi saw Qi Fangfei, he nodded and said with a bitter smile, "I'm no longer your senior brother." Senior brother. Dr. Fan, why did you come to the Medicine Emperor Pavilion today? Qi Fangfei sighed, recalling that Fan Zhi had long been expelled from the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. Little junior sister, he brought his own medicine boy to participate in the assessment. Is that little girl? I didn't expect that she would be able to last until the last round. Cheng Sihai went up to greet Qi Fangfei enthusiastically, but Qi Fangfei revealed an indifferent attitude. So that little girl was eldest senior brother's medicine boy. No wonder her temperament was so similar to eldest senior brother. At this time, Yun Xing and the other 20 medicine boys were already standing at the entrance in confusion. Medicine Master Kong chuckled. Your third round of assessment will now begin. You have an incense stick's worth of time to distinguish which herbs are used to refine the incense in this golden cauldron. Remember, you have to guess all the herbs correctly in order to pass the assessment. Otherwise, you will be considered a failure. They actually had to distinguish the herbs in the cauldron. None of the 20 herb gatherers had expected that the third round of the examination would be like this. Isn't this making things difficult for us? The cauldron at the entrance changes to a new type of incense every day. How can we guess what kind of incense is used today? The medicine boys all frowned. A few of them even circled around the golden cauldron, continuously inhaling the fragrance from the cauldron like a dog. In the field, only Yun Sheng and Cheng Qing did not immediately move. The two of them stared at the golden cauldron, trying to distinguish how many herbs were mixed in with the incense. The incense stick's worth of time was about to end. Nearly half of the medicine boys gave up halfway. One after another, people began to report the composition of the incense, but no one could guess all the herbs. There were only 2 herb gatherers left on the field, Yun Sheng and Cheng Qing. There's still one more. Cheng Qing was extremely anxious. He had been trying for a long time, but there was still one more herb that he could not identify. He looked at Yun Sheng and saw that Yun Sheng had no reaction. It seemed that she was the same as him, unable to guess what the last herb was. There's only 15 minutes left. Between the two of you, who will answer first? Medicine Master Kong finally reminded. Me. Cheng Qing walked out first. Chapter 77. Cheng Qing was also cautious. He was afraid that Yun Xing would eavesdrop on him, so he wrote down his answer and passed it to Apothecary Kong. The latter took the paper and glanced at it. Then he shook his head regretfully. You guessed 11 herbs correctly, but you're still missing one. So, you're still not qualified for the herbalist assessment this time. Not qualified. Kong Fong, are you purposely looking for trouble? When has the examination ever tested the composition of incense? In the Medicine Emperor Pavilion, there are more than 3,000 different incense formulas. Not to mention these herb gatherers, even we might not be able to distinguish every single one of them. Who would be able to pass such an examination? Cheng Sihai, who was watching from the side, shouted in dissatisfaction when he saw that his nephew was not qualified. Relying on his status as a scattered physician, he didn't put those lower-ranked apothecaries in the Medicine Emperor Pavilion in his eyes. The Kong Fong in front of him was someone who didn't know how to read people's expressions. Today he actually made his nephew fail. He didn't believe that there would be anyone here who could distinguish the fragrance in the crimson gold cauldron with just 1 or 2 chances. I think the one who's looking for trouble is you. Your own herb gatherers are inferior to others, and you're blaming the examination for being too difficult. What a joke. Who said that there aren't any herb gatherers here who can distinguish the fragrance in the crimson gold cauldron? I can. A pleasant child's voice sounded in the ears of everyone present. Yun Sheng, who had been immersed in her thoughts, walked out. She quickly wrote down the names of a few herbs. Cheng Sihai looked at it and couldn't help but sneer. I thought that you were incredible, but you only wrote down 11 herbs. Compared to Ching Ching, how can you be better? You're still a failure. I didn't say that this was my final answer. Yun Sheng walked to the crimson gold cauldron under everyone's watchful eyes. She pushed on the crimson gold cauldron with her small white hand, opening a corner of the cauldron. He then rubbed a handful of the medicine inside the cauldron and tasted it in his mouth. Rolling his eyes, he leisurely said, "The taste is sweet, the color is golden red, and it's powdery. If I'm not mistaken, the last ingredient is poisonous dragon bile powder. Alchemist Kong, please judge." Wow. After seeing Yun Sheng's actions, the herb-gathering boys who were judged to be unqualified all boiled up and began to mock Yun Sheng. Among them, Ching Ching was the most aggressive. After tasting it, we can guess what it is. What's so strange about it? We all know that it's poisonous dragon bile powder. It's just that it's mixed in the incense, so we can't tell it apart. Apothecary Kong only told us to identify the medicinal ingredients in the incense, but he didn't say how we should do it. To distinguish herbs, we have to start from many aspects such as color, fragrance, and taste. If we can't see it with the naked eye and smell it with the nose, then we have to taste it. As a doctor, if we can't use our body ingeniously to distinguish the properties of herbs, then what kind of doctor are we? Yun Sheng had just finished speaking when she heard a round of applause. As it turned out, Yao Rong had been standing at the side since long ago. She had also heard Yun Sheng's words. Well said. You don't need to question the topic of this test. I came up with the idea of using a few herbs in the incense as the last test. Although this young lady isn't a member of our Medicine Emperor Pavilion, what she said is the mission of our Medicine Emperor Pavilion. The first Medicine Emperor of our Medicine Emperor Pavilion, who is also the founder of our Medicine Emperor Pavilion, also relied on tasting the medicinal properties and toxicity of various herbs to identify the types of medicinal ingredients. Yao Rong couldn't help but feel envious of Fan Ji. He had accepted an outstanding herb-gathering boy. No, she should be a herb man now. After passing the third test, it meant that Yun Sheng had already become a qualified herb man. At the same time, she also became the only one who passed the test of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion today. Congratulations, you are called Yun Sheng, right? This is the Herbman medical tablet issued by the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. Yao Rong bestowed a delicately carved medical tablet to Yun Sheng. When Yun Sheng received the medical tablet, Fan Ji couldn't help but nod his head in praise. Yun Sheng, are you willing to join the Medicine Emperor Pavilion? As a potential doctor, you will be able to receive the most comprehensive medical training in the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. I am willing to accept you as my medicine man, and personally guide you in your studies of ancient medicine. Yao Rong's words at the same time as he bestowed the medical token to Yun Sheng had caused everyone to be shocked. Yao Rong's words meant that she wanted to accept Yun Sheng as her disciple. To be accepted as a disciple by an imperial physician, this was truly a heavenly fortune. Everyone was filled with envy. Only Fan Ji's expression changed slightly as he looked at Yun Sheng with a complicated expression. Yun Sheng was also somewhat astonished. She didn't expect that Yao Rong would directly propose to accept her as a disciple. Being chosen by an imperial physician and having the backing of a colossus like the Medicine Emperor Pavilion, she could even use this opportunity to find a way to awaken her father. As if he had already guessed Yun Sheng's answer, Fan Ji quietly turned around, intending to leave the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. Just at this moment, someone hurriedly carried a child covered in blood and rushed in. Doctor, doctor, quickly save this child. He was trampled by a runaway horse outside and suffered serious injuries. Yao Rong and a group of people from the Medicine Emperor Pavilion hurriedly rushed forward to check on the child. Yun Xing also squeezed into the crowd. The child was about 8 or 9 years old. His injuries were very serious and his clothes were simple. With one look, one could tell that he was a commoner's child. His limbs and chest were all bruised and scratched, but the most serious injury was his head. His head was already swollen to a large extent, more than twice the size of a normal child's head. He had already fainted. Yao Rong took the boy's pulse and listened to his heartbeat. Subconsciously, she shook her head. Even she didn't have the confidence to save this child. This child's injuries are very serious. Unless we send him to the imperial physician and use the wandering dragon needle technique to treat him, he won't be able to survive. It won't work. The imperial physician went out to visit a friend a few days ago and is not in the Jade capital. Qi Fangfei became anxious when she heard this. Yao Rong hesitated. If it was any other part of the body she would have some confidence. However, the injury was on the head. If the acupuncture was not done properly, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, if this dragged on, the child's situation would be even worse. Let me do it. A low voice broke the silence in the room. The one who spoke was Fan Ji, who was about to leave. He anxiously looked at the unconscious boy, wanting to go forward and carry him away. This is a patient of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. Even Imperial Physician Rong can't do anything. Don't tell me that a mere Imperial Physician like you can do something. Cheng Sihai led a group of physicians from the Medicine Emperor Pavilion to surround Dr. Fan. Fan Ji put him down. This is the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. You can't touch the patients here. Yao Rong's face was also somewhat embarrassed. Can't touch him. Don't tell me you have a way to save him? Have you forgotten how our daughter died? Fan Ji's originally gentle face suddenly changed like a violent storm. His face was filled with hatred. Chapter 78. Yao Rong's body stiffened as though she was struck by lightning. A look of grief flashed across her beautiful face. It turned out that Yao Rong and Dr. Fan were husband and wife in their early years. Both of them were obsessed with the study of ancient medicine and even raised a lively and adorable daughter. At that time, the Fan couple were both studying medicine under the great country's hand. Both of them were talented and Fan Ji was even more talented than Yao Rong. Both of them held important positions in the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. However, due to an accident, their daughter was seriously injured. Her condition was even more serious than the boy in front of them. All the doctors in the Medicine Emperor Pavilion, including the great country's hand, were helpless. At that time, Fan Ji heard that there might be a way to save his daughter. However, when he was about to send his daughter to the temple for treatment, everyone in the Medicine Emperor Pavilion, including the great country's hand, objected. They believed that if they sent his daughter to the temple, it would be equivalent to admitting that magical treatment was better than ancient medicine. Despite Fan Ji's pleas, the Medicine Emperor Pavilion refused to send his daughter to the temple. They even imprisoned Fan Ji. In the end, when Fan Ji was released, his daughter had already died in Yao Rong's arms. It was also because of that incident that Fan Ji completely gave up on the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. He announced that he would leave the Medicine Emperor Pavilion and study magic. He would use the method of combining ancient medicine and magic to treat illnesses. However, he was too old when he started learning magic. In terms of understanding magic, he was far behind. Furthermore, because he used to be a doctor, it led to his awkward situation in the Jade capital. After knowing what happened, Yun Xing only had one thought in her mind. Foolish, this was really foolish and laughable. At that moment, Yun Xing only felt that the doctors in the Medicine Emperor Pavilion were too pedantic. The battle between ancient medicine and magical treatment was just like the battle between Chinese medicine and Western medicine in the early years. In the Yen clan's environment, Yun Xing had always thought that there was no real difference between Chinese and Western medicine. On the contrary, taking the strong points to make up for the weak points and combining the two was the true way to save a person. Yao Rong, do you still want this child's parents to experience the pain that you and I went through back then? Fan Ji questioned as he snatched the boy away. The doctors from the Medicine Emperor Pavilion wanted to step up and make things difficult for Fan Ji, but they were stopped by Yao Rong. Yao Rong's face was pale as she spoke. Fan Ji, do you know what the consequences will be if you take this child away and fail to save him? In Zhou State, if a doctor's actions cause the death of a patient, they would be punished. Before this incident, Fan Ji had used a combination of magic and ancient medical skills to treat some patients. However, there were still two major mistakes in the process, causing one of the patients to be disabled and the other to be retarded. Because of this, Fan Ji was demoted by 2 ranks from Imperial Physician to Dr. Ling. This time, the little boy was so heavily injured that if Fan Ji made another mistake and killed him, what awaited him would not only be a demotion, but also his qualification as a doctor would be revoked and he would be thrown into prison. Yao Rong's reminder did not make Fan Ji back off. He only wanted to save the severely injured boy. The boy did not seem to be from Jade Capital. No one stopped Fan Ji when he left with the boy. When she saw Fan Ji leave, Yun Sheng immediately followed. Yao Rong wanted to stop them but it was too late. Cheng Sihai saw Fan Ji and Yun Sheng leaving one after the other and revealed a sinister smile. He quietly called his nephew Cheng Qing. Go and report to the government immediately. Say that a doctor has killed a patient in this small rejuvenation clinic in the west of the city. Fan Ji carried the boy and quickly ran back to the clinic. In just a little more than 15 minutes, the heavily injured boy's face had turned purple like an eggplant. His nostrils flared and it became difficult for him to move. Dr. Fan. Yun Sheng followed closely behind Fan Ji with her short legs. It's you, Yun Sheng. Why did you come back? That's good too. Follow me back to the clinic, pack your luggage and leave with your father. I can teach you the method of your father's cloud dream ice sleep. You can find a water element magician in the city to help you carry it out. Fan Ji had seen Yun Sheng's performance in the medicine man examination today. He was sure that Yun Sheng would be a promising talent in the future. It was too much of a waste for such a child to follow him in the small rejuvenation clinic. Since Yao Rong had proposed to take her in as a disciple, she would definitely be able to make a name for herself in the world of ancient medicine. No, Dr. Fan. I'm not going back to pack my luggage. I'm also not leaving the small rejuvenation clinic. I want to be like you, fusing magic and ancient medicine to become a magic doctor. Yun Sheng raised her small face. Her face rippled with calmness and intelligence that did not match her age. Child, what nonsense are you talking about? My path isn't for everyone. Moreover, you've seen my current situation. If I don't have a way to cure this boy, I may be locked up in prison tomorrow. I can't even protect myself, so I can't implicate you. You'd better leave quickly. Fan Ji was shocked. He was moved, but he was even more reluctant to take Yun Sheng in. At first, he took Yun Sheng in because he coveted the child's rent. After getting along with her for a while, he found that Yun Sheng was a rare good child. Every time he saw her, Fan Ji would think of his daughter who died young. He must not be a burden to this child. She had her own path to walk. Seeing that Yun Sheng had followed him all the way to the clinic, Fan Ji simply closed the door of the clinic and locked Yun Sheng outside. He was about to enter the courtyard with the boy in his arms to carry out treatment when Yun Sheng's voice came from outside the door. Dr. Fan, are you going to carry out the treatment on the boy's head? That treatment can't be completed by you alone. Fan Ji had planned to not let Yun Sheng participate in the treatment no matter what, but after hearing this sentence, his whole body stiffened. How did she know what he was planning to do? Dr. Fan, let me in. I'm the only one who can help you with this treatment. It can't be delayed any longer. If the blood clot in the boy's brain is not cleaned up in time, even if you save his life, he may be paralyzed in the lower half of his body or suffer from dementia for the rest of his life. Yun Sheng was still not discouraged. She stood outside the door and spoke again. The door opened with a creak. Fan Ji looked as if he had seen a ghost. He looked at Yun Sheng. After a long while he choked out a sentence. How do you know the after effects of a failed operation? In short, I just know. Hurry up. If you delay any longer he will really die. Yun Sheng pushed Fan Ji into the room. She did not care about how many doubts he had in his heart. She immediately began the life and death treatment. Chapter 79. In just half an hour, the boy's head had swelled up quite a bit. His entire head looked like a balloon that had been blown up. Dr. Fan had examined his other injuries, but none of them were fatal. The boy's most serious injury was his head that had been kicked by the horse. He believed that there must be a blood clot in the child's brain. And the only way to remove the blood clot was to open the child's skull. Such a method was almost unheard of in the boundless continent. However, Yun Sheng, who had modern medical knowledge, had the same opinion as him. However, Yun Sheng also realized the danger of having the skull pierced. Even in modern times, the head was the most vulnerable part of the human body. Even if the craniotomy was assisted by modern sophisticated medical equipment, even if it was successful, it would still leave a lot of sequelae. That was why Yun Xing could speak of the side effects of the craniotomy. In fact, Dr. Fan had a similar experience before. That craniotomy treatment caused the patient's lower body to be paralyzed, and he was still lying in the hospital bed. However, even if half of the body was paralyzed, it was still better than dying. That was why Dr. Fan did not hesitate to choose to have the boy's head pierced. Although she had lived in the medical center for a while, Yun Xing had never entered Dr. Fan's room. She found that Dr. Fan's residence was somewhat similar to the residence of modern Western medicine doctors. There was actually a complete human skeleton here. No wonder the outside world thought that Dr. Fan was a ghost doctor who killed people. Dr. Fan was also paying attention to Yun Xing's reaction. He thought that after Yun Xing saw the human skeleton, she would show a frightened expression. Who would have thought that she would just casually glance at it and no longer have any reaction? According to what you said just now, you should have seen the craniotomy. Later, when I perform the craniotomy, if there is anything wrong, you can directly tell me. In front of Yun Xing's calm performance, Dr. Fan had already ignored the fact that she was a 6-year-old child. He even treated her as an experienced doctor like himself. Okay, the room is too dark. Do you have a bigger mirror? It would be best if it could reach the floor. Yun Xing measured Dr. Fan's room from the perspective of a modern doctor. The room was too narrow and the inside was a little messy. The most important thing was that there was not enough light. He also needed to prepare alcohol for disinfection, hemostatic agents, and beast tendons for stitching. Dr. Fan seemed to be ill-prepared for these. After being reminded by Yun Xing, Dr. Fan found a mirror and the alcohol and beast tendons that Yun Xing requested. However, he did not prepare hemostatic agents. Why don't you have hemostatic agents? The most dangerous part of craniotomy is cerebral hemorrhage. If you don't have hemostatic agents, what if the patient bleeds? Yun Xing could not help but be surprised. Hemostatic agents are required by ancient medical skills. You forgot that I also learned magic. When I stop bleeding, I don't use hemostatic agents. I have other methods to stop bleeding. After saying that, Dr. Fan began his craniotomy. There was no X-ray machine in the boundless world, nor was there any equipment for taking films. Yun Xing Shinong I was only at the microscopic level, so she could not see the location of the blood clots in the child's brain. But in this aspect, Dr. Fan's experience came into play. His hand felt around the child's swollen head for a moment, and soon landed on the back of the child's head. Judging from the wound, the horse must have kicked the back of the child's head directly, so there was a dent in the horse's hoof. This should be the place where the blood clots had accumulated the most. After confirming the location of the blood clots, Dr. Fan's hand emitted a bone-chilling cold air. Yun Xing saw that in his hand, water magic elements quickly condensed to form a blade that was not inferior to her own beast bone knife. Using magic elements to condense into a knife that could heal? Witnessing this scene, Yun Xing could not help but be speechless. Although this ice blade was formed from the water element, its hardness was not inferior to that of the beast bone blade. Furthermore, its shape could be changed according to the magician's own wishes. This was the perfect fusion of magic and ancient medical skills? Yun Xing seemed to have entered a brand new realm. The combination of magic and ancient medical skills might be able to make up for the lack of modern medical equipment in the boundless world. Yun Xing could not help but feel her heartbeat quicken. She was looking forward to this craniotomy that still needed to be carried out. Under the refraction of the floor-to-ceiling mirror, the light in the room was much brighter. This was also more beneficial for Dr. Fan to carry out his craniotomy treatment. The magic ice knife cut through the skin at the back of the boy's head, quickly revealing the skull that was covered with nerves and small blood vessels. Blood also flowed out in an instant. But the miraculous thing was, at the place where the magic ice knife cut, the blood that was about to spurt out was immediately frozen by the cold magic elements. Perfect. This way the so-called symptoms of excessive bleeding would not appear. In fact, in modern medical treatment, there were also methods of using freezing to treat some diseased tissues. But compared to modern medical equipment, the magic elements were more gentle. It could temporarily freeze the blood, but it would not harm the internal tissues of the person. This method was even faster than Yun Xing directly using gold needles to stop the bleeding. No wonder Dr. Fan said just now that he did not need a hemostatic agent. At this point, the surgery was already half done. Yun Xing could already see a sticky blood clot with the naked eye. It was this large blood clot that caused the boy's brain to swell and become unconscious. The next step was to break the blood clot in the boy's brain and release it. The ice knife in Dr. Fan's hand slowly became thinner as he cleared out the blood clot in the boy's brain little by little. In a small basin on the ground there was soon a small basin of blood clot. Just when the blood clot was almost cleared out, Dr. Fan's pupils violently shrank. He realized that his magic elements were not enough to maintain the operation. Due to his late initiation he was only a sorcerer, and a very simple water sorcerer at that. It was completely impossible for him to complete a craniotomy. Last time he did not persist at the last moment, which led to the patient's lifelong regret. Dr. Fan, leave the next step to me. Yunxing took a step forward and a shiny knife appeared in her hand. Her fingers moved nimbly, and at a speed that was difficult to be seen by the naked eye, the remaining blood clot in the boy's brain was cleaned out. Yunxing's expression was dignified. After cleaning out the blood clot in the boy's head, she quickly began to suture the wound on the boy's head. She threaded the tendons and the needle was like a swimming dragon. The boy's skin was perfectly sewn together under her needle technique, and only a few of the smallest stitches could be seen. The whole process only took a moment. If he did not see it with his own eyes, Dr. Fan would never believe that someone could complete such a difficult suture in such a short time. Yunxing, who is she? Chapter 80. Ping, ping, ping. A series of messy knocking sounds could be heard as Ching Ching led a group of soldiers to the entrance of the little rejuvenation. Sir soldiers, this is the place. Just now, there was a heavily injured boy who was carried in by Dr. Fan. This Dr. Fan isn't a good person. In his early years, he was imprisoned for several days for stealing a corpse from a graveyard. Cheng Qing had failed the examination today and was extremely angry with Yun Sheng. When he saw Yun Sheng following Dr. Fan back to the medical hall, he couldn't help but wish for the two of them to be arrested as accomplices. Seeing that the door of the clinic was closed, the soldiers shouted a few times outside, but there was still no response from the inside. The soldiers believed Cheng Qing's words even more. They fiercely pounded on the door of the clinic, almost tearing down the entire door of the clinic. I'm here, I'm here. Dr. Fan came out to welcome them. When he opened the door he was shocked to see the soldiers. You are Dr. Fan Ji of the Bell. I heard that you secretly brought a seriously ill patient back to the medical hall. Where is the patient now? The soldiers came to investigate, causing a huge commotion. The nearby merchants all gathered outside to watch the show. Ching Ching thought in his heart. With so many pairs of eyes watching, let's see how you can escape this time. You've gone against my uncle time and time again. This time you're dead for sure. Fan Ji wiped the sweat off his forehead. The patient has already been treated and is currently resting at the back of the medical hall. If you all don't believe me, you can take a look at the back courtyard. Treated? In less than 2 hours, that patient who was so severely injured that even the Medicine Emperor Pavilion didn't have full confidence in treating him was actually cured. Fan Ji, who are you trying to fool? You're just a doctor who was chased out of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. How can you have such capabilities? Sir soldiers, he must be trying to fool you. Cheng Qing pointed at Fan Ji's nose and shouted. Where did this wild dog come from, disturbing the peace of the medical hall? A little girl walked out from the back of the medical hall. The little girl's mouth was sharp as she scolded Cheng Qing. I was wondering who it was. So it's the trash who didn't even pass the examination of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion, Cheng Qing. It wasn't that Dr. Fan was chased out of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. Rather, it was Dr. Fan who fired the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. Also, you're not even a medicine man, yet you dare to insult Dr. Fan. You should know that Dr. Fan is Dr. Ling. According to the laws of Zhou State, those who insult doctors will be punished with 30 slaps. While everyone was still thinking about the meaning of firing, Yun Sheng had already led several officials into the backyard of the medical center. In the room in the backyard, the severely injured and dying boy's head was wrapped in bandages. Although he had not yet woken up, his breathing and complexion were not bad. It was obvious that his life was no longer in danger. Nonsense, isn't this person fine? The officers and soldiers were annoyed after being busy for a while. Coupled with Yun Sheng's instigation, they vented all their anger on Cheng Qing. They caught Cheng Qing and wanted to bring him back to the government to be punished. Officers, please be lenient. This child is a member of our Medicine Emperor Pavilion. He is young and doesn't know any better. If he has offended you in any way, please forgive him. The crowd parted as Yao Rong and Cheng Sihai walked into the medical center. It turned out that after Dr. Fan took the boy away, Yao Rong's thoughts were still uncertain. She was worried that the child's life would be in danger, but she was also worried that Fan Ji would be implicated. After thinking for a while, she decided to go to the medical center to take a look. Cheng Sihai also wanted to see Fan Ji's situation when he was sent to prison, so he followed along. Who would have thought that when the two of them walked in, they would hear the scene of the officers punishing Cheng Qing. No matter how useless Cheng Qing was, he was still a member of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. If he was humiliated, it meant that the Medicine Emperor Pavilion was also humiliated. Helpless Yao Rong walked out. Seeing that the person who came was Imperial Physician Rong, a rank 3 official, how could the officers dare to be negligent? They quickly released Cheng Qing. Yun Xing watched from the side, feeling unhappy. Dr. Fan's face was also tense. Obviously he did not welcome Yao Rong and the others. That child is already fine? Although she had already guessed the general situation from the discussions of the crowd, Yao Rong still found it hard to believe that Fan Ji alone was able to treat the severely injured boy without the help of a great national doctor. In the past few years, although she did not show it on the surface, she had been secretly paying attention to Fan Ji's every move, including his study of magic and the combination of magic and ancient medicine, creating a medical system that was completely different from the Medicine Emperor Pavilion and the Dharma Temple. She also heard that Fan Ji had made 2 medical mistakes because of this, causing him to be stripped of his qualifications as an imperial physician and a scattered physician. Now he could only be a doctor. Thank you for your concern, Imperial Physician Yao. That child is lucky and is already out of danger. This time it was all thanks to that child Yun Sheng. Facing his former junior sister and lover, Dr. Fan had mixed feelings. He hated Yao Rong, but it did not mean that he did not love her. It was a pity that the two of them were different people and it was difficult for them to return to their former love. Yun Sheng? Are you talking about the little girl who just passed the examination? Skull-piercing treatment? She actually helped you complete such a difficult treatment? That's impossible. Hearing the words through the skull, Yao Rong's eyelids suddenly twitched. In the past few years there were people in the Medicine Emperor Pavilion who had proposed similar treatment methods, but they were all rejected by the higher-ups because that kind of treatment was too difficult. Even Yao Rong herself believed that it was impossible for the surgery to succeed. In this world there is no such thing as an impossible surgery. There are only doctors who are unwilling to carry out the surgery. Imperial Physician Yao, Dr. Fan has already used his actions to prove that his magic and ancient medicine can cure what ancient medicine can't. Yun Sheng was unwilling to see Dr. Fan's pained expression when facing Yao Rong. She walked forward and made a gesture to send him off. Yun Sheng, did you really help Fan Ji complete the skull-piercing treatment? If that's really the case, I will take back my request to let you be my medicine man. Let me ask you one more time, Yun Sheng, are you willing to join the Medicine Emperor Pavilion? I can give you the title of Imperial Physician. Yao Rong looked at the little girl who did not even reach her waist with a new gaze and asked in an incomparably passionate manner. When these words came out of her mouth, not only the surrounding crowd, but even Cheng Sihai and his nephew almost dropped their jaws. A 6-year-old physician who was personally recruited by the youngest imperial physician in the Zhou state, Yao Rong. If this news were to spread out, it would definitely cause a sensation in the entire Zhou state. No, it would cause a sensation in the entire continent. The physicians of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion were all the most outstanding physicians in the entire continent. The little girl smiled sweetly, revealing 2 deep dimples at the side of her mouth. Those pitch-black Rumo eyes contained a steadiness that did not match her age. Thank you for your kind intentions, Imperial Physician Yao. No matter how many times you ask, my answer will always be the same. I, Yun Sheng, will not join the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. Because I want to follow Dr. Fan and pursue a different path of medicine. Chapter 81. Yun Sheng's reply left Yao Rong flabbergasted. However, she was also an open-minded person and did not blame Yun Sheng for her offensive words. Congratulations, Fan Ji. I think you have already found someone who can inherit your legacy. Perhaps the decision you made back then was correct. Yao Rong sighed as she looked at Dr. Fan with a complicated gaze. Fan Ji could not help but be moved. His lips moved. Rong, are you? No, it's already too late. From the moment I refused to leave the Medicine Emperor Pavilion with you, I had already made my choice. I am Yao Rong, a member of the Yao family. In this lifetime, I will never be able to leave the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. Yao Rong stopped Fan Ji from continuing. She took out a medical token and handed it over to Yun Sheng. Little girl, your temperament is very similar to mine when I was young. For the sake of patience, you will work tirelessly. I hope your decision today is correct. I believe you will be able to obtain this medical token sooner or later. Since you participated in the treatment today, it proves that you have the qualifications to become a doctor. Even if you refuse to become a doctor of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion, you can still use this medical token to become a doctor in the Little Huichun Medical Hall. Yao Rong also wanted to see how far this little girl, who had chosen a completely different path, would be able to go in the near future. Yun Xing did not hold back when she received the medical token. The medical token was a good thing. With it, it meant that she could officially prescribe medicine, make medicine, and help treat patients. This would greatly benefit Yun Xing's income and the research of new medicines in the future. Since the soldiers did not find anything illegal, they withdrew and left. Yao Rong also left with the Qing father and son. On the other hand, the crowd that had gathered to watch the entire process refused to disperse. These people had always thought that Fan Zhi was a third-rate doctor with poor medical skills. Very few people would actually go to the Little Huichun Medical Hall to see a doctor. Today's matter, however, allowed Fan Zhi to turn over a new leaf. Not only that, they also saw with their own eyes that the 6-year-old doctor in the Little Huichun Medical Hall rejected the invitation of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion's imperial physician. Oh my god, that was an imperial doctor, a doctor who treated the emperor and the royal family of Zhou State. So what if she was just a little girl who couldn't even reach the medicine cabinet? Little Huichun Medical Hall, Dr. Fan, Little Dr. Yun, well done. It was unknown who was the first to shout, but the crowd all cheered. Then some patients rushed into the clinic. The lively scene almost caused the door of the clinic to be pushed down again. It was not until the sun had completely set that the patients in the clinic were sent out one after another. Yun Sheng and Dr. Fan first performed a craniotomy today, and then they were surrounded by enthusiastic patients for the entire afternoon. By the time they closed the door, the two of them were already as tired as two dogs. Compared to the two of them, Yun Sheng was the younger one. She had also undergone a medicine man assessment in the morning. Logically speaking, she should have already exhausted her physical strength. However, at this moment she actually obediently went to move the door plank and close it. This made Dr. Fan, who was already so tired that he could not move, sigh endlessly. Dr. Fan naturally did not know that although Yun Xing was small in stature, she wore the Shinong medical bracelet and had also opened her second strange tendon. Although she did not cultivate Do Chi like the martial artists of the continent, her physique was now not much different from that of an ordinary martial artist. Moreover, as she continued to cultivate the Jade Marrow art, the rest of her strange tendons would be opened one after another, and her physique would improve further. After experiencing today's events, Yun Sheng's position in Dr. Fan's heart was already different. In the beginning, the two of them were just strangers. Later on, the two of them had an employer-employee relationship. However, today Yun Xing not only helped him get through the crisis of the craniotomy, but also refused the Medicine Emperor's pavilion. Dr. Fan repeatedly recalled Yao Rong's words, and his heart was unable to calm down for a long time. He looked at Yun Sheng's small stature, and her figure overlapped with his own daughter who had died young. At that moment, a thought appeared in Dr. Fan's mind. Yun Xing was his daughter. The heavens had pitied him for losing his daughter and had given him compensation. Since Yun Xing's father was unconscious, then he would replace Yun Xing's father and take good care of this child during this period of time. Perhaps one day, all his hopes and pursuits would be realized by Yun Xing. Yun Xing, don't be so busy. Rest for a while. Fan Zhi already had a plan. Since Yun Xing was interested in both magic and ancient medicine, then he should not restrict her growth. If he allowed Yun Xing to stay in the Little Huichun Medical Hall with the status of a junior doctor, although she would be able to help him and earn a living, it would obviously be detrimental to Yun Xing's growth. Previously, during the craniotomy, Fan Zhi had almost failed due to the lack of magic elements. He realized that if he wanted to truly become a magic doctor comparable to the imperial physicians of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion, or even surpass them, he had to send Yun Xing to the Magic Academy while she was still young to learn magic. In terms of ancient medicine, with him and Yun Xing's talent, there should not be a big problem. However, in terms of magic, he was only a sorcerer and could not teach her the method of cultivating magic elements. As such, the Magic Academy became the only suitable place for Yun Xing. Yun Xing did not know that Dr. Fan's thoughts were actually the same as hers. According to Yun Xing's plan, she had originally planned to enter the Magic Academy next year. Therefore, after Dr. Fan brought up his idea, Yun Xing also confessed her plan. No, it's better to learn magic and martial arts as early as possible. In Yujing, children who have reached the age of 6 have already started to enter different magic academies or martial arts centers of different grades. Dr. Fan decided that tomorrow morning, he would bring Yun Sheng to the magic academy in Yujing to inquire about it. In Yujing there were many different magic academies. Among them, the most famous one with the best resources was undoubtedly the Yujing Magic Academy, which was run by the imperial family. Just as Dr. Fan was thinking about how to send Yun Sheng to Yujing Magic Academy, Xiaohei came out. It barked at Yun Sheng a few times. Dr. Fan did not realize that Xiaohei was a magic beast. He thought that Xiaohei was just a slightly bigger wild dog. You're saying that the injured boy has already woken up? Earlier, when Yun Sheng and Dr. Fan were busy in the medical center, Yun Sheng asked Xiaohei to help look after the unconscious boy in the backyard. Although the craniotomy was very successful, Yun Sheng still wanted to be careful. She asked Xiaohei to be vigilant. If there was anything wrong with the boy, Xiaohei would immediately run over to tell her. It's best that he's awake. The child is injured but his family still does not know. It's already dark and his family must be worried sick. Let's go check on him. If there's no problem we'll send him home later. Dr. Fan and Yun Sheng walked to the backyard together to check on the injured boy. Chapter 82. In the backyard of the clinic, the boy who had woken up saw two strangers and shrank back in fear. Don't move around, you still need to rest for a while. Just when the boy was scared, a beautiful little girl suddenly rushed to his side and glared at him unceremoniously while waving her little fist. The boy had tried to climb out of bed, but the bandage on his head was already bleeding. The boy was so frightened that he didn't even dare to breathe loudly. You saved me. I thought I was going to die. Thank you. The boy could already speak, but he was stuttering, perhaps because he was too frightened. When Xiaohei went to report, the boy looked around and realized that he was in a clinic. There were herbs drying outside and his head was bandaged. The boy looked a little silly and rustic, like a potato that had just been dug out of the soil. It was no wonder that his family didn't come looking for him even after he was brought to the little Huichun clinic. It was because he wasn't from the Jade capital. When the boy woke up, he remembered that he had been trampled by a horse on the street. Even the teachers in the school might not be able to treat such a serious injury. As he recalled, he suddenly felt around his body in a panic. Scepter. My magic scepter? The boy was about to cry. The most important thing in his body was his magic scepter. His family had saved up a whole year's worth of money to buy this magic scepter for him. Don't move. If you do this again, do you believe that I will knock you out with one punch? Yun Sheng waved her fist at him when she saw that the wound on his head that had just healed was about to split open again. The aura of the big sister of Banana Leaf Village was immediately exposed. The boy was so frightened that he immediately stopped moving. However, he kept muttering, "Magic scepter. You are from the Magic Academy." Dr. Fan sized up the boy and vaguely sensed magical waves on his body. However, these waves weren't strong. This child's cultivation should be between a sorcerer's apprentice and a sorcerer's. Yes, I'm a student of the Royal Magic Academy. My magic scepter. The boy struggled to recount what had happened to him during the day. The boy's name was Gufeng. He was 7 years old and lived in a small mountain village thousands of miles away from the Jade capital. From the sound of it, that small mountain village should be similar to Banana Leaf Village. It was isolated from the rest of the world and the people were simple. When Gufeng was 3 years old, he participated in his first magic enlightenment, and was discovered to have an extremely rare light element in his body. When the news spread, the small mountain village was in an uproar. It had to be known that there hadn't been a child who could comprehend the elements of magic in over 100 years. Moreover, the child was a light mage. This was really too amazing. Due to the boy's special magic attribute and the fact that Zhou State had been working hard to cultivate magic talents, Gufeng was recommended by the village to be a national public student. He completed his apprenticeship in the local city and was then sent to the Royal Magic Academy. I've only been here for a few months. Because my magic isn't good, and I'm very stupid. I've always been bullied by the students of the academy. Gufeng uneasily pulled at his clothes. His clothes were covered in patches. On the boundless continent, the tuition fees for sorcerers' apprentices and martial arts students were subsidized by the state. However, after becoming a sorcerer or martial arts student, if they wanted to enter a higher-level magic academy or martial arts school, they had to find ways to raise their own tuition fees. However, there was also a situation where both the inside and outside were public students. Public students referred to sorcerers and martial arts students who came from poor families but had a certain level of magical talent. Most of them were young and couldn't earn their own tuition fees. Under such circumstances, the state would give them a certain amount of tuition fees and arrange for them to work in the academy or martial arts school. They would also be paid accordingly. Gufeng was one of the public students of the Royal Magic Academy. Yun Sheng roughly understood the entire process of the matter. The Royal Magic Academy was the best magic academy in Zhou State. The most talented and wealthy magic students in Zhou State gathered there. These people were either born in the royal family, or were the sons of officials, or the sons of aristocratic families in Zhou State. At the very least, their families were rich and they racked their brains to enter the Magic Academy. These people obviously looked down on Gufeng, who was poor and didn't know any powerful magic. In modern times, this was a typical case of school bullying. So, the incident of being trampled by horses and the old injuries on your body were all caused by the students of Yujing Magic Academy? Yun Sheng was furious when she heard this. Earlier, when she was bandaging Gufeng's wounds, she noticed that other than the marks of being trampled by horses, there were also many old injuries on his body. The old injuries were densely packed and it was obvious that they weren't caused in a day or two. Thinking about it, Gufeng had been bullied ever since he entered the Royal Magic Academy. Gufeng didn't answer, but his gloomy eyes told Yun Sheng all the answers. They're too much. Don't they know that casually trampling on people can lead to death? Perhaps because Yu Do was born in a small mountain village, Yun Sheng, who had experienced similar bullying incidents earlier, felt a sense of familiarity with Gufeng at first sight. At this moment, there was a fire in her heart that kept bursting out. Since they were from the Magic Academy, then let's compete with magic. Yun Sheng rolled up her sleeves and pulled out her magic scepter. So there's such a thing in the Royal Magic Academy. Dr. Fan shook his head as he heard this. He had originally planned to send Yun Sheng to the best Royal Magic Academy, but now it seemed that this plan had to be reconsidered. So you're also a sorcerer. Thank you for your treatment. The Magic Academy doesn't allow outsiders to enter. Oh no. I haven't returned to the academy yet. If the tutor finds out, I'll definitely be punished. Thank you both. I'll go back first. Gufeng was so engrossed in his conversation with Yun Sheng that he almost forgot that there was a curfew in the Royal Magic Academy. Today he had been dragged out of the academy by a group of magic students and was heavily injured after being trampled on by horses. The tutor didn't know about this. If she found out, he would be grounded. The more Gufeng thought about it, the more afraid he became. He didn't care about his injuries and insisted on rushing back to the Royal Magic Academy. Seeing that they couldn't persuade this stubborn person, Yun Sheng and Dr. Fan could only come up with another plan. You can't move around with your injuries. How about this: if you must go back, let me and Dr. Fan send you back. At the same time, we'll explain to your tutor why you didn't return home tonight. Also, you must tell your tutor about the group of hateful magic students bullying you. Yun Sheng and Dr. Fan discussed this. They didn't feel comfortable letting Gufeng go back alone. Yun Sheng also wanted to see what the Royal Magic Academy was like. The two of them pushed the medicine cart and sent Gufeng back to the Royal Magic Academy overnight. Chapter 83. It was already very late, and there was only a hazy moonlight all around. Unable to stop Gufeng from insisting on rushing back to the Magic Academy, Yun Sheng and Dr. Fan could only push the cart all the way to the Royal Magic Academy. Before going to the Royal Magic Academy, Yun Sheng's impression of the Magic Academy was still stuck in a magic novel that she liked very much in her previous life. In fact, when she arrived at the Yujing Royal Magic Academy under Gufeng's guidance, she saw that Zhou State's #1 Magic Academy was not much different from the one in the book. The Royal Magic Academy was built with a huge amount of money by the Zhou State's royal family. Its location was not just in Yujing City, but outside of Yujing City, on a mountain with a beautiful scenery. This mountain was called Yutsong. In the early years, it was a hunting estate of the Zhou State's royal family. After some remodeling, it became the Royal Magic Academy of today. The Magic Academy was surrounded by mountains and rivers. Just the area alone was close to 1,000 mu. Because of the magic array, it was surrounded by trees all year round, and the scenery was incomparably beautiful. The academy built a plaza, a straight road, and a luxurious building with a royal style. According to Gufeng, the academy also built a special magic tower for students of different levels to study. When Yun Sheng and Dr. Fan arrived at the entrance of the academy, they saw a few magic arrays that emitted a gentle magical glow. In front of them was the entrance of the Magic Academy. The Yujing Magic Academy's emblem was hanging on the entrance. On the emblem was a magic scepter. Around the scepter were the 4 elements of nature: red fire, yellow earth, blue water, and green wind. At the bottom of the emblem were the words Yujing. Beginner student Gufeng, why did you only come back this hour? Also, the academy prohibits outsiders from entering. Did you forget the rules? When the 3 of them approached, the guards at the entrance stopped them. Gufeng was nervous and stuttered even more. His tone was uneasy and he did not know how to answer. We've already informed your mentor, Mary. If you have any explanations, you can tell them to her. The guards could also see that Gufeng was injured. Looking at the 2 strangers, they immediately informed the mentors of the academy. Soon, a female magic instructor rushed out of the school like a whirlwind. The female magician was dressed in a red magician's robe and was incomparably beautiful. She held a magic scepter in her hand. Yunxing took a look and discovered that she was a master magician. As soon as Yunxing saw her, she was sure that this female magic instructor must be a wind and fire magician. Gufeng, you brat, do you want to be grounded? This month, because you've been dragging us down in combat class, our potion group 13 has been at the bottom for 2 consecutive months. If this goes on, I'll be laughed at by the other instructors at the end of the semester. The female magic instructor was Gufeng's teacher. In the Magic Academy, every student who entered the Magic Academy in their first year would have a magic tutor to teach them. The magic tutor could be chosen by the tutor, or it could be randomly arranged by the academy. Most of the tutors liked to choose smart and strong students. Mary had some family matters at the beginning of the semester, so she returned a little late. The students left for her were the leftovers of others, including Gufeng and another student. The Royal Magic Academy was strict. Students were not allowed to go out for most of the time in the month. Today was Public Day, which was the monthly opening day of the Royal Magic Academy. At the same time, it was a holiday for the students. The academy allowed the students to go out, but they had to return to the Royal Magic Academy before sunset. After sunset, Mary went to the students' dormitory to check, but found that Gufeng had not returned. After asking Gufeng's roommate, she found out that Gufeng had gone to the city to buy a magic scepter today. Most mages would buy a magic scepter directly after being certified by the Mage Temple. But as a public student, Gufeng was too poor, so he had to wait until today to have enough money to buy his own magic scepter. Mary understood Gufeng's personality. He would not dare to not return to the academy without permission. Who knew that after waiting for a while, he still had not returned. Mary was anxious and wanted to go out to look for him. Who knew that the academy guard would send news that her student Gufeng had returned, and had even violated the academy's rules by bringing 2 outsiders with him. Mary was a 2-headed wax. She would burn at the slightest provocation and kill. She was just about to teach Gufeng a lesson when she found that this silly boy's head was wrapped up like a dumpling. She then looked at his body and saw that his clothes were tattered and full of dirt. Gufeng, what's going on? Mary had a bad temper and was dissatisfied with Gufeng dragging her group down. But that did not mean that she would let her student be bullied. Her gaze immediately fell on the suspicious characters Yun Sheng and Dr. Fan. That little one, who looked no more than 5 or 6 years old, was definitely not her. She must be old. But looking at Dr. Fan's appearance and the magical elemental aura around him, Mary felt that something was wrong. No need to look, we didn't bully him. It was the people from the Magic Academy who bullied Gufeng. He was trampled by a horse today and almost died. If you don't believe me, you can look at the back of his head, Yun Sheng interrupted. What? Did those rascals from the Magic Combat Department bully you again? Tell me, which group are they from? From Mary's words, it seemed that the Magic Academy was divided into 2 groups, the Magic Combat Department and the Magic Potion Department. No. I accidentally fell down and was stepped on by a passing horse, Gufeng hurriedly denied. Seeing his cowardly appearance, if it wasn't for the injury on his head, Yun Sheng really would have knocked him on the head and quietly woken this naive boy up. Mary saw that Gufeng refused to admit it no matter what and was angry. She was also depressed by her student's cowardice. I told you to go out with Poison Boy, but you didn't listen. You deserve to be bullied. And you too, thank you for bringing my student back. It's getting late and the Royal Magic Academy does not allow outsiders to stay. You can leave now, Mary said with a look of disappointment. At the same time, she ordered Yun Sheng and Dr. Fan to leave. Miss Mary, don't rush. Yun Sheng. She's my benefactor. She also wants to enter the Royal Magic Academy. Can you help recommend her to enter the academy? Gufeng looked silly, but he knew how to repay kindness. He had overheard Yunxing say that she also wanted to enter the Magic Academy, so he wanted his tutor to recommend Yunxing. He also hoped to have another student who he could get along with. It would be best if she could join their Magic Potion Department 13. You want to enter the Magic Academy? You don't have the chance this year, but you have to come early next year. Mary waved her hand and used a wind magic levitation spell to lift Gufeng into the Royal Magic Academy. Chapter 84. Come back next year? What was going on? Seeing that he couldn't help Yunxing, Gufeng kept apologizing, but was pulled back by Mei Li. After being rejected by Mei Li outside the school gates, Yunxing asked the school guard and found out that she had missed the enrollment period for the Imperial Magic Academy. The magic academies and dojos on the mainland all accepted students in the spring. The Imperial Magic Academy's enrollment period was set in the spring every year, and this year's enrollment period had ended 2 months ago. It was already the beginning of summer, which meant that if Yunxing wanted to enter the Magic Academy, she would have to wait until next year to register for the examination. Dr. Fan could only console Yunxing. A year would pass very quickly, and in this year she could first learn the elementary water magic that Dr. Fan knew, Cloud Dream and Ice Sleep. This way Yunxing would be able to grasp the basics of magic with 3 elements. After that day the medical center became much busier. Half a month had passed, and the sun was hotter day by day, officially entering the height of summer. Only then did Yunxing remember that she had agreed with Wenren Qiu to send medicine to Wenren Manor. The medical center's income was stable, and Yunxing had also begun to get in touch with the matters of a doctor. However, the profits from selling finished medicine were considerable, and Yunxing wanted to refine some new medicine which required a large amount of money. Thus, Yunxing decided to make a trip to Wenren Manor to sell the qi-gathering elixir and meditation water that she had already refined. During the lunch break, before the medical center became busy, Yunxing asked for leave from Dr. Fan. She put on the beast language ring, put the new medicine into the ring and left. As soon as Yunxing left the medical center, Xiaohei followed her eagerly. Yunxing hadn't brought Xiaohei out for a while, and seeing that it was bored, Yunxing brought it out with her. Wenren Manor was located in Changlin Alley, which was a secluded alley south of Yujing City. Most of the buildings in the alley were large courtyards, and there weren't many residences. Furthermore, they were all courtyards with their own gates, and it was obvious that they were the residences of the wealthy families in the Jade capital. After Yunxing knocked on the door, a kind-looking old servant came out. Hearing that Yunxing came for Wenren Qiu, the old servant was delighted. "Are you the little thing that young master mentioned?" Yunxing pursed her lips. He called her a little thing again. For the sake of money she endured it. The jade marrow technique that Yunxing cultivated was a very gentle Taoist internal cultivation technique. Although it could strengthen the body and open up the 8 extraordinary meridians, it was different from the battle chi of the boundless continent's martial artists. On the surface there wasn't much difference. Yunxing was only 6 years old and looked small and skinny. She had been taking good care of herself in the Jade capital, so she looked chubby and was indeed younger than her actual age. It was inevitable that she would be called a little thing by others. Not long after the old servant entered to report, he heard a series of urgent footsteps coming from the courtyard. When Yunxing heard the footsteps, she could tell that there were a few people rapidly walking towards the entrance. It seemed like there were other guests in Wenren Qiu's manor. The bear-like man, a female magician who looked like a warrior, and Wenren Qiu who looked 100 times prettier than a woman, rushed to Yunxing like a tornado, 1 in front and 2 behind. In the past month, Wenren Qiu had been anxiously waiting for Yunxing's appearance in the manor. Who knew that Yunxing had delayed the delivery of medicine because of the medical hall and the medicine man examination, which made Wenren Qiu suffer. He had been knocked by Feng Kuo and Mu Nanyan countless times like a wooden fish. He had been reprimanded numerous times, which made him feel suffocated. Today, when he heard the servant say that there was a young lady at the entrance looking for him, he was ecstatic. That scene made him even happier than when he saw his sweetheart. "Little thing. You're finally here. This young master has been waiting for you to death." Wenren Qiu's flower-like delicate face was filled with smiles. Mu Nanyan also sized up Yunxing. Sure enough, it was as Wenren Qiu had described earlier. The other party was young and had a pair of black eyes. Although the other party's clothes were simple and plain, he looked full of spirit. He was indeed a lovable little fellow. Just as Yun Sheng was thinking about the background of the other two people, the man who looked the most terrifying among the three, who looked like a bear, took a big stride forward. He opened his arms and wanted to pick up Yun Sheng to take a closer look without saying anything. Who knew that when his body just leaned forward, a black shadow suddenly rushed out from behind Yun Sheng. That was Xiao He, who misunderstood that the man wanted to harm Yun Sheng and was eager to protect his master. Xiao He's pair of sharp claws slashed out several claw winds, attacking Feng Kuo. Different from when he was just saved by Yun Sheng, Xiao He had grown taller and stronger. He looked like a lively little wolf cub. Just now, along the way, many passers-by were frightened by Xiao He and retreated. Feng Kuo was a dual cultivator of magic and martial arts, so he was not to be trifled with. He sucked in his chest and stomach and leaped backwards. His tall body was like a feather. After flying a few steps, he glared like a tiger and swept his long legs towards Xiao He like a praying mantis sweeping the ground. Xiao He saw that it was about to be swept by the leg wind, but it did not panic. It nimbly dodged to the side. Oh my, it's actually a war beast. Mu Nanyan and Wenren Xiu were shocked. Feng Kuo's face also showed a strange expression. Little thing, that's our captain. He's one of us. Wenren Xiu hurriedly went forward to stop it. With Yun Sheng's shout, Xiao He immediately retreated. Wait, this little thing can understand you. You can control war beasts. Are you a summoner? Feng Kuo and the others were experienced. They immediately recognized the unusual relationship between Yun Sheng and Xiao He. Moreover, Yun Sheng and Xiao He cooperated well just now. Only a summoner could control war beasts so freely. The three bounty hunters looked at Yun Sheng expectantly. I'm a summoner, but I haven't passed the assessment. Xiao He is not my war beast. It's just a war beast pet and I can't go to the summoning center. Yun Sheng was scared by the three people staring at her. She had already summoned the puffed egg, so she could be considered a war beast summoner. However, in the Boundless Land, one had to pass a special assessment to become a summoner. Hence, Yun Sheng was not a war beast summoner in the true sense for the time being. Her mother, Hu Jiuxing, had reminded Yun Sheng not to let others know that she was a summoner. Hence, Yun Sheng did not go to the summoning center for the assessment. Yun Sheng had just finished speaking when she suddenly felt her body become light. She was already carried up by a pair of big furry hands. A bear-like face swayed in front of him. Feng Kuo grinned and put Yun Sheng on his shoulder. Are you worried that your identity as a summoner will be exposed and you will be pestered? Don't worry, with us here we can naturally help you hide this matter. We will bring you to the summoning center to participate in the War Beast Summoner assessment. It was really a case of someone giving her a pillow when she wanted to sleep. What the Phoenix Soaring Hunting team lacked now was a summoner. Yun Sheng was brought to the summoning center by Feng Kuo and the others in a daze. The three of them were so excited that they forgot to ask what Yun Sheng's real war beast was. Chapter 85. The Jade Capital Summoning Office was a place led by the Zhao state of the Boundless Continent, specifically used for summoners. As long as a beast speaker passed the summoning office's assessment, they would be certified as a summoner. Feng Kuo promised Yun Sheng that he would not expose her identity. Therefore, before Yun Sheng entered the summoning office, he gave Yun Sheng a small gift. It was a small toy that looked like an earring. It looked like a small accessory made of a demon beast soul stone. It was called the Illusion Earring, and it was also a special magic tool. Regarding magic tools, Yun Sheng had come into contact with them when she was almost plotted against by Ding Lei in Banana Leaf Village. Simply put, magic tools were made by specialized magic craftsmen. They were tools that were enchanted with special magic. This illusion earring was enchanted with a permanent fog magic. When Yun Sheng wore the illusion earring, even if she stood in front of someone, the other party would not be able to remember her face. They would only remember that Yun Sheng's face was covered with a layer of fog. Wenren Xiu and the others also had a similar magic tool. For bounty hunters like them, it was inevitable that they would do some shady business. Therefore, a magic tool that could change one's appearance was a must-have tool for killing and robbing. With this magic tool, Yun Sheng did not have to worry about her identity being exposed. Where is everyone? We're here to participate in the summoner assessment. Yun Sheng arrived at the Jade Capital Summoning Office accompanied by Feng Kuo and the others. There were very few summoners in Zhou State. Even the summoning office was deserted. There were not many people there. In such a huge summoning office, only one examiner could be seen. Feng Kuo was so tall and had a rough voice. As soon as he walked into the summoning office, He immediately roared away the sleepiness of the examiner. Who wants to participate in the summoner assessment? The people in the summoning office thought that the examiners were Feng Kuo and the other two. Feng Kuo simply raised Yun Xing with one hand, making Yun Xing very embarrassed. However, it had to be said that sitting on Feng Kuo's shoulder and looking down from above felt quite good. Compared to such a tall man, Yun Xing was simply like a doll. She was very petite. No wonder the examiner didn't see her. You? Little girl, you can summon beasts? What kind of beast did you summon? The people in the summoning office became excited. Zhou State didn't have many summoners. Every year, the number of new summoners submitted by the summoning office in Jade Capital was very low. If they could get one more, they would. Only the people in the summoning office knew how rare summoners were in Zhou State. Even the Huang family in Zhou State did not have more than 5 summoners. What kind of beast was Bo Bo? Yun Xing really hadn't thought about this question in depth. According to the continent's classification of beasts, beasts could be categorized into plants, animals, or even some strange weapon spirits or even magic spirits. However, the latter two were very rare. Most summoners could only summon plants or animals. It should be an animal. Yun Xing wasn't sure about the specific type of puffed egg. However, puffed egg had wings, so it was definitely an animal. What is the beast's battle skill? Is it a warrior-type beast or a magic-type beast? Or is it some other rare auxiliary battle skill? The staff in the summoning office continued to ask. It doesn't seem to know magic or battle skills. If it's attacking ability, it's very good at crying. Yun Xing's voice became softer and softer as she spoke. The 3 bounty hunters at the side were also confused. A beast that was good at crying. This was the first time they had heard of it. At first, they thought that Xiao Hei was Yun Xing's beast. They didn't expect it to be a battle pet. Crying? Crying can't be considered a battle skill, right? The staff in the summoning office was in a difficult position. Beasts, as the name implied, were supposed to help their masters in battle. A beast that loved to cry, this was too outrageous. Who said crying can't be considered a battle skill? The so-called battle skill is a skill that has the ability to attack or threaten. If you don't believe me, you can try to resist Bo Bo's crying for a quarter of an hour. Yun Xing was a little unconvinced. She immediately chanted a summoning spell. After a wave of magic elements, a lively monster egg with wings appeared in front of Yun Xing. Bo Bo, my dear master. You haven't summoned Bo Bo for a long time. Bo Bo thought you didn't want Bo Bo anymore. Bo Yin, why are there so many people here? I'll be shy. Puffed Egg was very excited. It jumped around Yun Xing non-stop. The language of beasts could only be understood by beast summoners who were telepathically connected with their beasts. Therefore, in other people's ears, it was just a noisy monster egg. Bo Bo, this is the summoning office. I'm taking the beast summoner's assessment. This is very important to me. But the examiner said that you're too ugly and too useless. You don't even know a single battle skill. You're not qualified to be called a beast. He told me to quickly cancel the contract with you and find a new beast. Yun Xing started to lecture it. Ugly? Useless. Canceling the contract was too much of a blow to the egg, too insulting. Wah! A burst of earth-shaking wailing, accompanied by 2 fountain-like streams of tears. Puffed Egg jumped up and down, letting out an incomparably tragic wailing sound. The sound was like the sound of a demon demanding a life. The most frightening thing was that while Bo Bo was crying, it was unknown how a small egg like it could have so many tears. In a short while, Puffed Egg's tears flooded half of the examination room. Not to mention a quarter of an hour, in just a short 5 minutes, the examiner from the summoning office felt that his head was heavy. His hands and feet twitched and he almost foamed at the mouth and fainted. Too frightening, this egg wasn't crying at all. It was clearly proficient in some kind of extremely frightening sound wave type mental attack. The examiner from the summoning office didn't dare to underestimate Bo Bo anymore. Without thinking, he risked his old life, grabbed a piece of paper with trembling hands and wrote a few strokes on it. Beast level pending, an unknown egg-type magical beast. Good at mental attacks, extremely destructive power. The examiner from the summoning office begged Yun Xing to quickly summon her beast back. Yun Xing immediately summoned the puffed egg back. Fortunately, the puffed egg's cries had little effect on her, otherwise she really would have cancelled the contract with it immediately. Congratulations, you've become a summoner. This is your summoner ring. From today onwards, you're a real beast summoner. The examiner from the summoning office glanced at the name Yun Xing left behind. On it was written Yen Yun. Yun Xing took the summoner ring. This ring was very similar to the beast speech ring, but it was only a summoning ring. It wasn't like the ring left behind by her mother, Hu Jiuxing, which could store items. Yunxing quietly swapped the two rings. In the future she would use the beast speech ring left behind by her mother as a summoning ring. When they walked out of the summoning office, Wenren Xiu and Mu Nanyan both held onto the wall to walk out. Only Feng Kuo was slightly better, but when he walked his legs were also trembling. When they reached the door, Wenren Xiu sighed, "I've learned something new. It turns out crying is also a kind of battle skill." Chapter 86. Huang Ting and the other two only had one thought in their minds at this moment. Yunsheng's beast was too strong. If anyone told them that crying was not a combat skill next time, they would make him cry immediately. Although this beast summoner came inexplicably, the little thing in front of them had at least become a summoner certified by the summoning center. Just now the three of them had been careful. They had entered the summoning center from the main entrance, but had sneaked out from the back door. They were sure that no one would know that just now, another beast summoner had silently appeared in Dezhou. For other countries on the mainland, especially Penglai, which was rich in summoners, a beast summoner might not be a big deal. However, Yunsheng was a beast summoner more than 6 years old. She could also refine high-quality finished products. Her future development potential must be amazing. Before the news spread and other forces in Yujing City took action, they had to quickly pull Yunsheng into their bounty hunting team. However, Yunsheng's age was a problem. She was only 6.5 years old. If she reported her age to the Hunters Guild, the other hunting teams would laugh at her. Feng Kuo, Wenren Qiu, and Mu Nanyan communicated silently with their eyes, hoping to find a way to get the best of both worlds. In the end, it was still Captain Feng Kuo who made the decision. He tried his best to put on what he thought was the kindest smile he had ever shown in his life. He bent down like a cat and said, "Little thing, our hunting team still lacks a beast summoner. Do you want to join our hunting team?" He didn't know that at that moment, Wenren Qiu and Mu Nanyan both felt that their leader looked like a wretched weird uncle holding a lollipop to kidnap a little girl. "Captain Feng, I'm sorry. I have to help with the medical center. I also plan to enter the Royal Magic Academy at the beginning of next year and accept the systematic magic study, so I can't join your hunting team." Yunsheng politely refused Feng Kuo's invitation. Just now, on the way to the summoning center, Wenren Qiu expressed to Yunsheng that she was willing to buy Yunsheng's potions at 3 times the price in the future. In this way, Yunsheng's basic living expenses in Yujing City and even the tuition fees of the Magic Academy were basically solved. Although she had become a summoner, Yunsheng still hoped to go further in magic. Only with more powerful magic elements could she break through the summoning level. Royal Magic Academy? What's so good about that place? It's just a place for idiots. If you want to learn magic, just look for me and swallow. Feng Kuo was so anxious that he was sweating profusely. It was not easy for him to find such a summoner, but now the other party was unwilling to join their team. This was really making him anxious. "Boss, I don't agree with her learning magic from us. Our magic is killing magic." Mu Nanyan looked at the 5 uncouth men, but her mind was unusually meticulous. She felt that Yunsheng was indeed too young. She was not suitable to be a bounty hunter with them, let alone participate in leveling up combat. Although the Royal Magic Academy might not be able to learn advanced magic, it was indeed the most systematic place to learn basic magic. "Boss, although I don't want to admit it, I also feel that the tomboy is right this time." Even Wenren Qiu felt the same way as Mu Nanyan. Wenren Qiu and Yunsheng had not known each other for long, but Yunsheng was very sensible despite her young age. This made Wenren Qiu, who was an only child since young, have the impulse to treat her as her own sister and dote on her. Yunsheng's ability to make potions was top-notch. She was more suited to saving people than killing people. Being a bounty hunter was not suitable for this little thing in front of her. Yunsheng listened to the two people's sincere words, but her heart quietly changed. The people in front of her had only met her by chance, but they were so considerate of her. It really surprised her. "But if we don't have her, where are we going to find another summoner? Are we going to stay in the C-rank hunting team forever?" Feng Kuo also knew that Yunsheng was too young, but that was also something that could not be helped. "Captain Feng Kuo, I can't be your official member, but I can be your substitute member. I promise you that after I learn basic magic from the Royal Magic Academy, as long as you need me, I can temporarily be your member." Yunsheng could see that the people in front of her must have difficulties. She was a person who would take revenge and repay kindness. She would remember the kindness of Huang Ting, and the other two. When the three heard that, they all felt that Yun Xing's words were feasible. Letting Yun Xing be a temporary member meant that she did not need to follow them to do missions. She only needed to participate in the final assessment of the CB rank hunting team. But before that, they really needed to let Yun Xing strengthen her magic cultivation. This idea is not bad. Little thing, you've helped us Huang Ting a lot. Since that's the case, we should also return the favor. How about this? Let the leader recommend you to join the Royal Magic Academy. Wenren Correo liked this clever and sensible little girl. Yun Xing only knew that to join the Royal Magic Academy, she had to rush in every spring. But there was one thing she did not know. Not every child of the right age could join the Royal Magic Academy. Only the children of nobles and rich families could enter. If the commoners wanted to enter, they had to undergo a very strict magic assessment. If the first few conditions did not match, then there was only one way left, and that was to be specially enrolled. As the name suggested, specially enrolled students were students with special skills. And Feng Kuo happened to have this channel to let Yun Xing enter the Royal Magic Academy under the name of specially enrolled students. As for the reason, it was because Feng Kuo himself was a lecturer in the Royal Magic Academy. Don't be too surprised. The teachers in the Royal Magic Academy are all armchair strategists. I've been hired to be the magic lecturer for the combat class. Feng Kuo did as he said. Without any hesitation, he directly brought Yun Xing to Yujing Magic Academy. Yun Xing did not expect that she would arrive at Yujing Magic Academy so quickly. Feng Kuo disliked Yun Xing's short legs and slow walking, so he directly put Yun Xing on his shoulder and walked towards the Magic Academy's admissions office. As he walked, he also introduced the situation of Yujing Magic Academy to Yun Xing. Yujing Royal Magic Academy was a magic academy established by the previous emperor of Zhou State. The original decree was to change Zhou State's many years of poor magic and the tradition of emphasizing martial arts. But the establishment of the Magic Academy did not change the current situation of Zhou State. In the past few years, the Royal Magic Academy had always been at the bottom of the list of intermediate magic academies in the mainland. Regardless of whether it was the magic combat competition or the innovation of magic potions, they did not have any outstanding results. So, the Royal Magic Academy was once called a trash academy. This was also why Feng Kuo had a look of disdain when he first heard that Yun Xing wanted to join the Royal Magic Academy. If not to satisfy the vanity of some people in his family, he would not have bothered to teach at the Royal Magic Academy. Chapter 87. Unlike the previous time when Feng Kuo brought the outsider through the school gate, the guards did not even make a sound, let alone ask who the child sitting on Feng Kuo's shoulder was. At this time, Yun Xing still did not know that Feng Kuo was also considered a tyrant in the Royal Magic Academy. His nickname was Human Combat Machine. Among the weak magic teachers, Feng Kuo was famous for being tyrannical in both magic and magic. Magic combat and magic potions? There is also learning how to make magic potions in the Royal Magic Academy? Yun Xing heard a new magic term. I almost forgot. When you go to the admissions office to complete the procedures later, you have to immediately choose your future magic study direction. After all, you entered the school later than others. The other beginner students have already been studying for 2 months. Feng Kuo looked like a rough person, but he was a thorough person. He told Yun Xing that in the Royal Magic Academy, there were 2 schools of study: magic combat and magic potions. These 2 schools of study were also the 2 major factions in Jade Capital Academy. The so-called magic combat referred to the combat magic. As for magic potions, it was a combination of all kinds of magic from magic potions, including magic healing and magic potion making. Every magic teacher had around 3 students under them. They were responsible for the students' studies from magic warrior to grand magic engineer. Feng Kuo himself was a magic combat instructor. It was a pity that he already had 3 combat mage students under him. Otherwise, he would really want to take Yun Xing under his wing so that they could take care of each other. Magic healing? Could it be light elemental magic? Although Yun Xing possessed a 5-elemental magic soul, she was unable to sense any light elemental magic. When they encountered the beast blood cloud, Xia Wenshu's light magic left a deep impression on her. Another reason why she insisted on going to the Royal Magic Academy was because she wanted to learn light magic through other means outside of the temple. Of course not. After learning magic systematically, you will realize that light magic is not the only thing that can heal. For example, water magic can heal after fusing with magic potions. As a magic master, Feng Kuo's knowledge of magic was much more than Yun Sheng's. Pondering for a moment, he continued, on the continent, there are very few people who can truly comprehend the light element. The slightly more talented light-type mages have all been selected by the temple. I remember that ever since the establishment of the Magic Academy, there has only been one light-type student. It's a pity that that student's talent in magic combat was ridiculously poor. Feng Kuo's facial muscles trembled as he recalled the first time that student attended a magic combat class. That scene was unbearable to recall. While they were talking, Feng Kuo had already brought Yun Sheng into the Imperial Magic Academy's admissions office. When he heard that Feng Kuo wanted to recommend Yun Sheng as a specially recruited student to enter the Royal Magic Academy, the tutor at the admissions office had a troubled look on his face. Lecturer Feng, I'm sorry, but the number of specially recruited students for the combat department this year is already full. We can't accept this new student. It's full, isn't it? Lecturer Fu, I remember now. Your son seems to be in my combat class. I'll have to give him some pointers in the next class. Feng Kuo rubbed his chin and muttered to himself. The tutor was so scared that his face turned pale. Feng Kuo was a dual cultivator of magic and martial arts. He was definitely an anomaly among the mages who couldn't carry anything. His family had only one son for 3 generations. If his precious son received Feng Kuo's pointers, then he would be done for. Lecturer Fu clearly remembered that once, a fire-type magic tutor spoke carelessly in front of him. He didn't use any magic at all and beat him up until he had to stay in the school's infirmary for more than a month. Just now that little girl came in sitting on Feng Kuo's shoulder. To be able to be so intimate with Feng Kuo, she might be Feng Kuo's illegitimate daughter. He couldn't afford to offend her. Wait a moment, let me take a look. The magic tutor was so flustered that he didn't even have time to wipe the sweat off his forehead. He flipped through the information. That's it. The Magic Potion Department still has a spot for a public student of magic potions. The school can provide breakfast and accommodation for free, but you have to help the Magic Potion Department take care of a public herb field. A public student of the Magic Potion Department? Isn't that the same as the Magic Potion Department? This won't do. You also know that the Magic Potion Department has always been ridden on by the Magic Combat Department. Feng Kuo glared angrily. His pair of bare eyes stared fiercely at the magic tutor. Tutor Feng, I'll be a public student of the Magic Potion Department. As long as I can enter the school as soon as possible, I have no objections. Yun Sheng heard from Feng Kuo that whether it was the Combat Department or the Magic Potion Department, they had to learn beginner magic at the beginner stage. Yun Sheng didn't have a problem joining either faction. Moreover, the only person she knew in the Magic Academy, Gufeng, was also a public student of the Magic Potion Department. If that's the case, then I'll have to trouble you first. If you're not used to it by then, you can still transfer to another department. Feng Kuo saw that there was really no other way, so he waved his hand and reluctantly agreed to let Yun Sheng join the Magic Potion Department. After confirming the Magic Potion Department, then choose another tutor. Right now, there are still a few empty students under the tutors of the Magic Potion Department. The tutor in the admissions office breathed a sigh of relief. His impression of Yun Sheng also improved a little. Fortunately, this child didn't inherit her father's fiery temper. In the Magic Academy, it had always been the tutors who chose the students. This time it was because of Feng Kuo that Yun Sheng could choose her own magic tutor. I'll choose her. Yun Sheng chose very straightforwardly this time. She pointed at a person in the tutor's handbook. Mary? How can you choose this wicked woman? Who knew that when Feng Kuo saw the person Yun Sheng chose, his eyes almost bulged out of their sockets. He had an ugly constipated look on his face. The reason why Yun Sheng chose Mentor Mary was very simple. It was because Gufeng was Mary's student, and the information showed that Mary only had 2 students under her, so she just happened to be short of 1 student. Yun Sheng just smiled. She wanted to have the same mentor as Gufeng. A few hours later, when she received the news from the academy, Mentor Mary went berserk. The school has appointed another public student for me? What? And it's Feng Kuo's recommendation? No, I'm going to the admissions office. If Feng Kuo recommends someone to come in at this time, he's definitely not a good person. After receiving the news that she was about to accept a new student, Mentor Mei Li's gorgeous face immediately became murderous. Who was the person she disliked the most in the entire Magic Academy? Feng Kuo was ranked second and no one was ranked first. Coincidentally, Feng Kuo also thought the same. But Teacher Mary, the new public student this time, is a woman. Haven't you always complained that there are no female students? Goofing and a green-robed magic student stood at the side. Humph, what I want are lively, cute, beautiful and smart female students. Do you think that with Fengqua's bear appearance, what kind of good can he recommend? Maybe it's a female bear. Don't tell me you want to study with such a new student. Mary gritted her teeth. I heard that the other party is only 6 years old, and she's a fire and earth dual-element mage, Goofing interjected again. Mary's footsteps stopped. She looked at Goofing and the green-robed magic student in front of her again and sighed. Looking at the two of you, I suddenly feel that a bear might be a very cute animal. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.